And open the meeting of March 15th. Welcome everybody. Today is a really celebratory, fun meeting. So I am glad to be here and glad to see so many people in person. And I will start today's meeting with a land acknowledgement, which I haven't done for a while. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jarujiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledged the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And with that, I will ask for roll call.
Mayor Seaman?
Here.
Councilmember Castellano?
Here.
Councilmember Moulton?
Here.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Here.
Councilmember Bauer?
Here.
Councilmember Burgell?
Here.
All right. And would everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We did not have a closed session today, so I don't need to report out the closed session, and we will move on to the mayor's announcements. Before we get into our big announcements, I'll just make I'll talk about a couple of the things that I've done since the last meeting, and I'm sorry I wasn't here at the last meeting, so it's been a month. But I want to say thank you to the HCOG, Humboldt County Association of Governments. We had a traffic safety task force meeting that met for 6 months. We developed a Go Slow, Watch the Road campaign, and now HCOG is pulling that group together quarterly, and we had our last meeting last week. We were talking about a new PSA campaign, some traffic survey, speed measuring around the area of Hodgson. So if you're in Hodgson and you're concerned, we are checking out the speeding in that area. We'll be passing out signs in that area as well. And I'm just really excited that they're taking this on and being really enthusiastic. And I'm super happy that so many of our members of the original task force from the county, from various cities, including Rio Dell and Blue Lake and Arcata, CHP, they're all continuing to participate in these discussions. And after this last week where we've seen, 2 pedestrians? It doesn't seem to be getting better. So the conversation and more, and the continued efforts to increase engineering, and make engineering improvements in those things, we are continuing to work on those. I want to say that Food for People is going to be having their groundbreaking on Friday at 1 o'clock over on 14th Street. Very excited that they're going to get their new facility. They've been kind of bounced around a little bit, waiting for it to go up. And they're going to have a great new place that they have been looking forward to for a very long time. Additionally, we're going to have a groundbreaking for the bear exhibit on Monday at 4 p.m. And we're very grateful to the Bear River Rancheria for their donation to that exhibit. And it's going to really, if you thought the Skywalk was great, we're going to up that a whole lot. If you're not already aware, Blue Ox is being featured on the Magnolia Network, a whole series on Eric, who is, such an extraordinary character and just a wonderful craftsman in our area. Great storyteller. So beyond the work that he does, he's a fabulous storyteller. You could go to the Eureka Theater on Friday and see that opening. Unfortunately, Leslie and I are going to be gone for both Food for People and the Craftsman screening. So it's not that we don't want to be there. I really do. But I would have got tickets before it was sold out if I wasn't going to be gone. That's right. Also, I wanted to make note, I just realized that this is, the 15th of March. March 20th is what I call Glad I'm Not Dead Day. So this is the time of year that I like to thank the fire department for existing and for continuing to save lives. It wasn't the Eureka Fire Department, or it wasn't the Humboldt Bay Fire that saved me when I was a baby. It was the Rialto Fire Department. But they have, in the last year, saved a baby. And we're very grateful. I am very grateful. My mother is very grateful. So I want to, at least once a year, remind them how much I appreciate what they do. And with that, I am going to move on to some of our fun celebrations. First up, I would like to announce the Artist of the Year. This is something we've been doing for, this is 3 or 4 years since I became mayor. My first year we did it. The Artist of the Year is selected from the Artist of the Month that is chosen by the was the Arts and Culture Commission. Now it's going to be the Economic Development Commission, which has representatives from the Arts and Culture Commission on it because they meet monthly. And this year, of those artists, I selected Topher Reynolds. Yay, Topher! So when we think about what we're looking for in the Artist of the Year, it's somebody who is working to put Eureka on the map. And I cannot think of an artist that more embodies that idea than Topher and his business, Copious Glass. Not only does he believe that marbles can change the world, and he really believes that marbles can change the world, he is a tireless advocate to make Eureka the center of the marble universe. He kicked that off with marble hunts in the Marble Weekend. And even this year, when we didn't have a lot of opportunities to get together, he even got himself and the city of Eureka featured in a National Geographic article about marble hunting. Just always out there advocating for Eureka, advocating for his art, and he's so much fun. So I would like to pass it over to our Economic Development Manager, Swan Asbury, who has a video.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a video that Eddie Alexander helped us with that I'm going to play.
I'm Topher Reynolds here at the Glass Garage in Eureka, and I've been named the Mayor's Artist of the Year. Super proud of that accomplishment and that designation. I'm happy to be an artist in Eureka and really honored with that designation. So the Glass Garage is a small cooperative studio. There are up to 6 of us. There's currently 4 of us working out of this little facility. We're all old friends and been at it all for about the same range of time, about 10 or 15 years. And we're able to kind of save costs a little bit, and we really enjoy the company of working together. And then when we have Arts Alive and events downtown, it's really awesome that we can kind of vend right out of our own little studio. I specialize in 2 different things. I spend half my year making Christmas ornaments and half my year making marbles. I'm probably a little bit more famous for the marble work. Was recently featured in National Geographic, did a story on marble hunting here in Humboldt County, which I'm pretty actively involved in. And then I'm also the promoter of Humboldt Marble Weekend, which has grown to be the largest marble event on the planet, and that will be happening, fingers crossed, again in February of 2023. We're going to bring the show back, and really excited to kind of move that forward. This summer, the World's Biggest Marble Hunt, which is a Facebook group, is having their 6th anniversary, and in honor of that, they're doing a hunt that's going to include works from somewhere between 100 and 200 artists are all donating, including some huge names in our industry and in the art form. It's going to be a prize package worth somewhere $20,000 to $40,000, depends on what marbles actually come in. But that's going to be a nationwide multi-leg marble hunt that will probably start from different parts of the country. One of the places to start from will be here. And for the entire month of June, the Clark Museum is going to be lending us one of their big cases, and we're going to have that collection of marbles here for the month of June. I've never lived anywhere where there was so much acceptance for just you having some energy and running with it. And I'm really thankful for that here. I live in town, I work in town, I ride my bike 6 days a week. 99% of my life happens within 5 miles of my house, and I feel like I'm living my best life. The combination of being a big enough town to have everything you need, but still have a hometown feel, and still run into people that I like everywhere I go, And man, Eureka is just a really, really good place to live.
I have a couple of things to give to you, but what I really want to say is in case you couldn't tell, Topher really likes Eureka, and he takes any opportunity in showcasing his work and in showcasing the city. I have 2 marbles from Topher. One he gave to me during a marble weekend that says, "I like Eureka." The other he made out of some glass that he was teaching me how to fuse when he was just showing me how he did his art. So I did a little, my daughter did a little, and he turned it into a marble. And so both of those are so precious, and both of them say home to me. And I think that Topher gets that. And we're so lucky that you chose to make Eureka your home. So I am going to come down and give you your plaque. Thank you. And you can say a few words.
All I can say is thank you very much for the honor, and I'll repeat a lot of the things that I say all the time, which is I've lived in a lot of places, and I've never lived anywhere where I felt so at home, and I felt so engaged, and I felt like the community reciprocated what energy I put out. This place is really, really good at giving you back what you present. And again, I've never lived anywhere that so embodied at like the way Eureka does. And, I truly do think that we are the center of the marble universe and getting more so every day. And I do still honestly believe that marbles may change the world. And, we're getting one step closer to it every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we all do it. And next up, I am excited to do kind of a different business of the year. What we are going to be celebrating is it's one business, both outgoing and incoming. I don't know the last time you walked into Pile High Deli, formerly known as Hole in the Wall, but on the front of the sandwich counter, there's a banner, and it has all the companies that the deli works with to create the sandwiches that we love. And that was the first thing that caught my attention when considering my list of Business of the Year nominees. It perfectly demonstrates how we all work together, and we're stronger when businesses support each other. If you continue to look up, you see pictures on the wall of kids and sports teams that have been going on, clearly a visual indicator that the business is engaged with the community and has been for many years. In fact, 31 years. That's a good long time to put in your time with a business. And the sandwiches, well, they speak for themselves. And in fact, I did not tell you the other day, John, that I was in Seattle last month visiting some friends, and they both lived here like 15 years ago. And they said, "Oh, we have a whole list of things we're going to do when we come visit." And I said, "What's on that list?" And they said, "Go to Hole on the Wall." And that was it. And they couldn't remember anything else. And they're like, "Just definitely make sure we get to Hole in the Wall." So I told them I would add to that list for sure. But I told them it has a new name now, but it's the same sandwiches, and they're still very excited to come out here. COVID was a hard time for a lot of businesses, and a lot of business owners at that time who were close to retirement just opted to sort of close up shop and retire amidst the chaos. But John had been working with his protege, Jesse, who is here tonight as well, to transfer ownership of the store. Unfortunately, he could sell the recipes and the equipment and teach him the tips and the culture that would keep things the same, but he didn't have the rights to sell the name. Which is really, it's just tough. And that's where I was so impressed with how they made this transition. they had plenty of time before they were going to make the transition, and they started talking to friends and colleagues and posting on social media, so that even when the new sign came up and people would freak out and they'd go, oh my gosh, what happened to Hole in the Wall? They didn't have to say it. They had all of their clients and their customers and people in the community jumping online saying, oh no, it's okay. It's going to be fine. We've been assured that it's all going to translate into the same great sandwiches. And so I think you've given people a lot of comfort and a lot of excitement. And by doing that, it allows them to be happy for you and not just upset that you're leaving. So this Business of the Year is in honor of both John Forrest and Jesse, not Sullivan, Jesse Galloway. Thank you. I said I was going to write it down and I didn't. So this is to honor John Forrest and Jesse Galloway, and we have a video of them too, Swan.
My name is John Forrest. I've been working here 31 years, and I really appreciate being recognized for Business of the Year.
And my name is Jesse Galloway. I've been working here for about 2.5 years, and I'm really happy that you guys selected us to be Business of the Year.
We do support the community in a lot of ways. Every business does. No one can do it alone because they don't make their own products. But as much as we can here, we purchase products that are distributed by local people, made by local people. In this small community, it's extremely important to do that. Just because, we're all a family. We're so tight here. No other town really does things the way we do. And so it's always been an honor to help out in any way that I can. And then it just creates this circle of life within the community. I'm excited about the transition. 31 years of doing anything, I think, makes you think about what's next. When I hired Jesse, I wasn't sure if he wanted to buy it. Then we started talking about it, and he showed a lot of interest in it. And I've been grooming him for it ever since he said that. I'm excited because I know Jesse can handle this. And this is, like I said, a bit of a rodeo. And he's one of the toughest guys I've ever met.
I've been really excited moving into this. John has quite the legacy going on. Like you said, for 30 years, he's been making this a very happening place, and everyone loves to come in. Everyone's excited about the food. And my goal is to continue that and to grow what I can out of it over my next 30 years.
I always knew that at some point, if I wanted to move on and sell the business, I would have to change it. So Jesse and I put our heads together and came up with Mile High Deli, which we think is a nice descriptive name. It's upbeat, and the acronym PhD doesn't hurt either.
I think the name change has been very well received. The community has really helped us pass the word along to everybody else by coming in, and the second it happened, everyone rushed in to ask, like, what's happening, what's going on? Very, very concerned. And so we've just gotten to reassure everybody that it's going to stay the same place that you want to eat, the same comfortable people that are here to ask all the right questions, and we really just want to keep going what we've already got. I mean, there's nothing in here worth changing, other than that.
Yeah.
So I will come up and have a couple of things for you, but wishing you the best in your retirement and wishing you some stamina because you got a lot of years ahead of you to keep this thing going. So I'm heading up.
Thank you.
Yours.
Thank you.
You're gonna get it on, and we'll all get together. And then if you wouldn't like to say a few words.
I've said a lot of words, but thank all of you guys. I recognize almost everyone in this room. I've I just can't say enough how I appreciate it. I never expected this. I didn't work for this, actually. I just went to work every day to do the best I knew how to do. And that's all you can really do. Somebody wants to congratulate me, I think. Who's your dad? Probably waiting at our house. But anyway, this has been the best career I could have ever done. I was really cut out for this. I'm a very production-oriented person. Everything I've ever done has been production. The faster you go, the more money you make. That's every job, from a paper route to picking fruit to bussing tables to waiting tables, doesn't matter. And so I brought that plus the discipline I learned from my father to bring your best every day. Absolute best every day. And I think I did that. And I'm very surprised by this. I appreciate the hell out of it. I really do. It's a great way to go out. I can't imagine a better way to finish a career. And I thank all of you in this room, because I know where I know you know where the place is, and I just appreciate the heck out of the fact that you trusted me to provide you with a consistent product that you would like. So thank you again for recognizing me, Susan and Swan and Emily, and putting me on the spot and in front of a camera, which I'm not comfortable with, but thank you, and thanks again. And I have the utmost of faith in Jesse, and he is going to do a great job there. Thank you. Thank you. So go ahead. Get embarrassed. Say something.
Well, I got big shoes to fill, as you all know. So I have my next 30 years to base off the one that came before me. And I hope I get to see every of you every week, every day, if I can, to do what John showed me how to do to the best of my ability. And honestly, I could not have had a better teacher to show me what I needed to do to succeed. So John, thank you very much for setting the example.
Good job, Jesse. Good job. You're gonna do good.
I always talk about how your businesses are your neighbors, right? And they build the culture of the whole community. And so just so excited. Next, I would like to invite up Eric Smith from Rotary, Old Town Rotary, to talk about the Rhododendron Parade update.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and I hope I can continue such a positive theme and recognition of some pretty cool people and businesses within our community. But I'm here today representing Old Town Rotary with news that we are restarting the Rhododendron Parade this year after a 2-year hiatus. Thank you. And as you know, we do that in partnership with the city. The city helps us with a little bit of staff times, underwriting on some things, cones to block off the streets, and then Public Works and EPD and those folks to help us with traffic control to keep it safe. This year, our theme is Partnering for the Future, and it has a couple of different meanings. As you might recall, we tried to honor Eric Hollenbeck for 2 years as a Grand Marshal, but the parade wasn't able to be held. So you, in partnership with us, did recognize him this past year and finally checked that box so that Eric can move on and do bigger things. But, we're honoring Dr. Keith Flamer from College of the Redwoods and Dr. Tom Jackson from Cal Poly Humboldt for their leadership in the development of the partnership between those two institutions that will help us lead folks through their education and through CR and Cal Poly Humboldt in our community. And it's a perfect example of what partnering can do. And we're really, really excited to honor those two for their work. We've had them both at our club. I'm sure many of you have outreached and worked with them, and there's some really positive stuff that's coming down the road. Also, we are encouraging this year school band participation, music participation. That's a big thing. Last year, I received a call, from one of our music teachers asking if there was anything we could do to support the kids in school and getting them out in an open environment and playing music. And we plan on doing that this year. And we actually have began our outreach, and we're offering each school band $250 to underwrite their cost and maybe to get some enthusiasm. We've even reached out to Del Norte County. So we're pretty excited, but there's more. There's a special donation or a prize for the best band based on some criteria from an anonymous donor of $1,000. So I encourage school bands in the whole North State to take a look. And as long as we can afford to give the stipend, we will. And we're really excited about that. There's also a partnership, again, that we have done with the racetrack relative to the first race of the season, which will be the first Rhododendron 100. And it's a race, and it'll be a big race. There's approximately $10,000 in prize money, and the goal is to start their racing season off with one of the biggest events of the year and bringing people in. Now, that'll be a busy weekend with the parade and the race, and in my understanding, maybe there's even a foot race down in the avenue. So it's a busy thing. So things are starting to come around, and we're starting to see our community get going again. I encourage people to go to the website. We have a paperless registration process. The website is www.eurekarodyparade.com, and that's RHODY. Parade.com. We are charging a small entrance fee this year that we will waive for the school groups and stuff, but the goal is to continue fundraising for our joint, Old Town Rotary and the City of Eureka, and our partner in our other Rotary clubs and a community member for Carson Park. And I know you had a presentation on that recently, where we're going to be able to hopefully, spend some money and redo Carson Park and bring some neat things to it, including a new restroom, ADA compliant restroom, and concession building. So again, thank you all. I look forward to seeing you, especially those maybe they're running for office, might want to sign up to get a spot in the parade, or just even our mayor. So any questions?
I do want to say that I liked everything you had to say across the board. I mean, it's just fun and exciting. It is exciting to see things coming back. But the partnership between HSU and CR is such a great thing to celebrate. I was really excited when I heard who your grand marshals were, and I think it was smart and relevant for right now. So I just really love that. Does anybody else have anything?
Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
There you go. That's what you're supposed to do.
Forgot about the.
I'm jumping in here. Hi there. I just wanted to express thanks and appreciation for the contributions to Carson Park. And I am also excited about the higher education folks serving as grand marshals, but just wanted to say thank you for that contribution. We had a presentation about it recently, but we weren't able to say thank you directly. So it's just such a joy to have partners in the community who are able to partner with the city to improve those facilities when, we can't quite stretch the dollar to make it there in the time that we want to. So thank you for stepping up and for that role.
You're welcome. And, I think we'll only gain more momentum out of this across the board for the park and other projects. So with that, I'll let you move on to even funner stuff. So
Thank you very much.
thank you. Take care.
Next up, I would like to invite Councilmember Bauer to read the proclamation for the Tsunami Preparedness Week.
Thank you, Mayor. This isn't fun necessarily because it is about tsunamis, but it's very important. So this is in recognition of Tsunami Preparedness Week, March 21st through the 25th, 2022. Whereas California's long coastline, its proximity to other coastal states with offshore earthquake faults, and its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire make it vulnerable to tsunami. And whereas 41 tsunamis have been recorded on the California North Coast since 1933, including 5 that caused damage. And whereas 11 residents of Del Norte County, California, were killed by tsunami generated by the 1964 Alaska earthquake. And whereas 1 resident of Del Norte County, California, was killed by the tsunami generated by the 2011 Japanese earthquake. And whereas a tsunami advisory for the Humboldt County coast was issued on January 15th, 2022, after the volcanic explosion in the Tonga Islands. And whereas tsunamis caused by underwater landslides as well as near source offshore earthquakes can occur at any time with little warning. And whereas education and awareness are fundamental to saving lives in the event of a tsunami. And whereas the state of California, the National Weather Service, and the county of Humboldt commemorate the 11th anniversary of the 2011 Japanese tsunami and the 58th anniversary of the Alaska tsunami by testing their ability to issue a tsunami warning for Humboldt County via the emergency alert system between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. on March 23rd, 2022. Now, therefore, I, Scott Bauer, on behalf of the Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim the city's support of the Tsunami Communications Test and encourage agencies, businesses, and other organizations to test their ability to receive and respond to a distant source tsunami event, and further proclaim the week of March 21st through March 25th, 2022 as Tsunami Preparedness Week in the city of Eureka. And I believe Lori Dangler from the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group is here to receive this.
Thank you very much. And thanks to Brian Gerving, who has been a stalwart member of the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group, for at least a decade, it seems. And, you know, it's wonderful to have great artists, to have great businesses, and have a community together, because that is the most important thing in preparing for potential disasters. And in the last few months, we've had our first damaging earthquake since 2010, the December 20th earthquake, which fortunately was not any bigger than it was, but it did cause a wall of the Lolita Creamery to topple down, and it certainly was a wake-up call. And then January 15th, our first Tsunami Alert for our coastline since 2011. So I don't know if we've got another 10, 12, 15 years before the next significant events, or they could happen this evening. The important thing is to talk about it, to work as a community. And when it comes to tsunamis, we all have a responsibility to be aware that the most important warning is the ground shaking beneath our feet. When that ground goes on and on and on, that's Mother Nature's signal to get off the beach, to get to high ground. And as part of that process, we're going to be holding a tsunami evacuation drill in the Manila community this Saturday. Then the following Wednesday, we'll be holding the tsunami communications drill for that other type of tsunami, the one that comes to us from far away. So again, thank you, and we're all in this together, and by putting the effort in now, we will get through the next inevitable event in better shape than we would if we hit our heads under the pillow. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to move on to presentations. We have a City of Eureka downtown parking study, and I have here that is Scott? Oh, there he is. All right. So I believe Scott Elsmore is going to be doing that presentation.
Yep, I'm here. So good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. As you may know, we have been working on a parking study for our downtown Old Town area, which began towards the end of last year. This project has included both recent and historical data collection, public opinion surveys, planning document research, along with best practices and management. Our goal is to improve the access and management of our current public parking, both off-street and on-street. Through the study, we've identified a number of changes that can be undertaken that we feel will provide improvements in both the short term and the long term for parking in this area. So assisting us with this project are on Zoom today are Mark and Divya from TJKM Transportation Planning Consultants. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to them, and they're going to give us an update of where we are in the project and what's going on. So Mark, I see you there, and I think screen share is probably hopefully kicked free for you.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. Hopefully.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. Madam Mayor, council members, city staff, my name is Mark Doty. I'm with TJKM, transportation planning firm out of Pleasanton, California, just down the way a little bit from y'all in the Bay Area. Myself and Divya Gandhi, who's also here, will be presenting our recommendations and our findings for the Old Town and Downtown Eureka parking study. I'm a senior planner with TJKM, and I'll let Divya introduce herself real quick, and then we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Divya Gandhi, and I'm a transportation planner here at TJKM, and we've been working with the City of Eureka and developing recommendations and strategies as a part of the Old Town and Downtown Eureka parking study. Thank you.
And before we start, I just wanted to thank everyone that's helped with this on the city staff side. Scott's been great. Amanda has been great as well. Swan has been wonderful, giving great feedback. So I just wanted to publicly, recognize them as well for their hard work on this and their part in this. So let's go ahead and get started with the presentation. Again, what we're going to be doing, we just did our introductions. Kind of what we're going to be doing tonight is giving you the online survey results, our data analysis, then also some preliminary recommendations and strategies of what we think you could do to help improve your downtown and Old Town parking there. And then I realize this is, public hearing back from the community as well, but then also hearing back from you, the council members, and the other interested parties. We obviously want to make sure that what we present as our final recommendations, our final report, are things that are going to be what works best for Eureka, for the people that work there, that live there, that have businesses. I really want to come up and eat one of those sandwiches at that deli now, since so many good things were talked about it. Because we as consultants, obviously, we want to make sure that we're doing our job correctly, and that is presenting a great plan that's implementable for y'all there in Eureka. So we'll get started. Next slide. So again, the goals of today's meeting, give you a little bit of background of the project itself, the study area, project parameters, again, results of the online survey and data analysis, strategies, recommendations, and then discussion, and then next steps. Next slide. So some of the project background information, what this downtown parking study does, what we're hoping it will do is to analyze existing parking demand, supply, provide strategies to improve the utilization. We have collected data and parking counts. We reviewed those. We hope that they are consistent with previous parking plans and other studies. And then we want to obviously consider existing parking demand and then also future development in downtown and Old Town. We realize there are several projects coming up that will impact parking. And obviously, we also want to make sure these align with goals of the City of Eureka entities and stakeholders and everybody that uses parking in Old Town and downtown. Next slide. So the project location, for those of you hopefully that are very familiar with this area, you have Avenue A there on the west side, Avenue L on the east side, First Street on the north, and then 7th Street on the south was our project kind of study area. And then the next slide shows actually also what your current parking controls are right now. Again, your 2-hour areas you can't park, your 12-minute areas, but then also your public parking lots, those that are metered and free, and then your private off-street as well. Next slide. So a little bit of background information. What we looked into when starting to start this project was the parking maximization study in 1998. Obviously, we reviewed all the City of Eureka municipal codes that govern on-street and off-street parking. We also took into consideration Humboldt County, their traffic impact and parking studies that they've done for their new administrative complex, but then also for their county community resources center. And then we also had some help from the economic development and planning department there in Eureka to give us an understanding of what the planned developments are in Old Town and downtown that may take away some of the existing off-street parking. And then how we can, obviously fold that into recommendations if those developments do indeed happen. Next slide. So part of this project, we conducted a survey. You can see the project website there, eurekaparkingstudy.com. This was a survey that was put together and was released to the community probably November 17th through December 21st. So we tried to hit kind of the Thanksgiving holiday up through right before the Christmas holiday. It was promoted through various City of Eureka social media and community outlets. Again, a great thank you to Scott and the other members of the City of Eureka that helped kind of spread the word. All in all, we received over 800 total responses, which was really great. And we received over 500 comments as well through that survey. Next slide. So we're going to go through those kind of survey results really quickly. There's going to be a lot of information to kind of throw at y'all. But again, what we did is we broke the survey into 2 rounds. We broke it into the kind of the general public answers, and then we had questions that were specific only to business owners and employees. So the first couple of set of survey results I'm going to show you are for the general public. So you can see here in your upper left-hand corner there that we had a pretty good response from people that are Eureka residents that come, dine, shop downtown in Old Town. Which location best describes you. Again, most people that responded to it did not live in the immediate downtown or Old Town area, but somewhere else, either in the City of Eureka or in Humboldt County itself. You can see there that the typical hours that people stayed were 1 to 2 hours, which is pretty typical throughout the entire survey results. Next slide. I don't think it's a huge surprise to anybody that most people access downtown and Old Town via their car, 91%. We do understand, if you see that public transit was at 0%, and some of the comments we've gotten back from some our other community outreach has been that it's probably not really correct, that there are people that actually use public transit that come downtown. And so again, we want to make sure that we understand these survey results were just a snapshot in time, and probably we're not representative 100% of who actually comes downtown and how they access downtown and Old Town. Typically, people park off street 79%, majority. For people that are coming downtown or in Old Town, typically takes about 5 minutes or less, or up to 10 minutes or less to find a parking spot, which is pretty normal for the most part. Next slide. So again, a reasonable distance to a destination. Most believe that between 2 to 3 blocks is a reasonable area or a reasonable distance to walk to their destination after parking. And then your existing 2-hour time limit. Sometimes it provides enough time for people that are visiting, again, shopping or dining. And then again, 31% say yes. We'll be kind of visiting this 2-hour limit later on in the presentation. So I believe that the next set of survey results are for the business and employees, yes. So then we had a great response for our employees in this result, this survey, which is really great because sometimes those voices aren't necessarily heard all the time. And so we're glad that we had a great response from our employees that work in downtown and Old Town. Again, not a huge surprise. I don't think that most people get to their place of employment by driving themselves. Again, the public transit, again, I understand that that probably is a one-off that there are more people that actually do use public transit. Next slide. So typically, where do people park? Again, it is either in a private parking area provided by their employer or on the street. Again, the on the street is going to be very important whenever we talk about some of the later recommendations. And you can see that not many employees, employers, or business owners provide parking at all. So again, that's where the public parking lot and then the on-street parking becomes very important. Next slide. So again, since most of these people, again, are employees, they're working, they're coming down first thing in the morning, they can find parking right away or 5 minutes or less. They can usually park within 1 block or closer than, 1 block or 2 blocks from where they have to, work. And then they believe that 1 to 2 blocks is kind of a reasonable distance for them to walk. Again, they're coming down at a time whenever parking is easier to find. Next slide. So again, the 2-hour time, which we'll talk about a little more in depth, either sometimes they use it or never they use it. Again, there's a reason for that because again, the next, survey answer you see there is that a lot of them, 51% at least, a slim majority, think that it's not enough time, either for customers or for themselves. And then obviously, the business owners and employees believe there is not enough parking for customers in the Old Town and downtown area. A lot of the responses that we got back from the survey, from the employees especially, was like the 2 hours is very cumbersome because they're having to move their car every 2 hours, which takes away from obviously their workday and them, being as productive as they could or should be. Obviously, next slide. So part of our survey, both for the general public and for the business owners and employees, we had the last question that was asked was there any other comments that you had? And this was an open-ended, a question. And as you can see, safety concerns for both the general public and for the business owners and employees were the top of that list for people. And, obviously you had for the general public, the next one was that the general public all in itself really thought that there was ample supply downtown and in Old Town. And then obviously the business owners and employees thought that there should be more parking available as well. And the time limits enforcement, obviously, for the business owners and employees were of a concern as well, 15%. Again, the safety concerns, that's something that we can't address specifically through this parking study and through the report, but we hope that some of our recommendations and strategies that we're going to present in just a little bit will maybe kind of help with those concerns with people. Next slide. So other outreach that we did do, again, this is our last, major outreach to the community. We did have 2 stakeholder meetings that the city facilitated in November of last year and February of this year. Eureka Main Street was very gracious and had us at their board meeting on March 1st, where we had over, I think, close to 30 people participate in that. We have sent information out to the Eureka Chamber of Commerce as well, so they can be up to date with this project. And then last Tuesday, we had the Transportation Safety Commission that we presented to as well. Next slide. So the data analysis, we're kind of getting into the data of what we actually we collected. So all this data that we are looking at tonight, for the most part, was collected in August of last year of 2021. We did it on a Thursday to collect the weekday counts, and then on a Saturday that collected the weekend counts. You have over 3,100 number of parking spaces there in downtown and Old Town Eureka. Almost 2,000 of those are on street. You have almost 700, which is off-street public, and then 430 that are off-street and private lots. Next slide. So what I wanted to show this slide is kind of two things. You see the line at the very top, which kind of is between 90 and 80. That's 85%. And typically an industry parking standard is if your parking is either the 85% line is what we consider kind of the perfect parking situation. If it's under 85%, your parking is underutilized, and you need to find ways to better utilize it. If your parking is on a consistently 85% or more, that's whenever you need to kind of take a look at your existing parking supply and see if you need to increase that in some way. And so that's kind of, again, the benchmark, industry standard baseline that we use for that 85%. So we understand that the counts that were taken in August of this year obviously were impacted by COVID. And so what we did with the city's help was look at some of the parking occupancy for years past. And so we went back to 2016, parking occupancy, again, for your weekday off-street parking. We looked at a couple of those benchmarks, 2016, 17, and 19 in this year. As you can tell, your parking occupancy was at its highest in 2016 at about 62%, 2017, 65%, 2019 at 71%. So, I mean, it was inching up every year, again, until 2020, when everything, dropped off, and then has come back up to around 54% in 2021. Again, this is weekday off-street or public parking lots. So again, things are kind of going back up, but again, that 85% is really kind of the threshold that we look at whenever we consider, recommendations and strategies. Next slide. So all this data, again, is from this August, from August of last year. We won't go through too much of it because, again, it does show that really your parking weekday occupancy did not get higher than 50% for the most part. Obviously, your midday, your 12 to 2 time frame was whenever your parking was most utilized during the weekday. I do want to look at your private parking lot, your lower right-hand graph there, the private parking lot weekday occupancy, that did get above 85%. That was at 88%. Again, that midday, noon to 2 p.m. time frame. But then it drops off quite a bit, actually, the later you get into the day and obviously into the evening. Next slide. And in your weekend occupancy, again, we didn't get above 25% with this for any of them. But again, if you look at the private parking lots there, it's your lower right-hand corner, that was only at 11%. Again, that's going to be important to remember whenever we go through some of our recommendations. But again, I just want to emphasize again that, we understand that COVID did have an impact to an extent on some of these parking counts, especially the summer. So that's why we went back and wanted to make sure that we were utilizing data from previous years to show exactly, maybe give us a better understanding of what it was there in Old Town and downtown. Next slide. So again, let's get into our recommendations and strategies. This first slide is kind of our short term. These are things that we think that the city can do within the next couple of years to help kind of utilize and optimize the parking better. One is just increase public awareness of parking options, including public parking information on city websites. Eureka Main Street could have information about parking. Obviously, we all use Google on our phones. Hey, historic downtown, downtown and historic Eureka, where to go. Those always ding specific parking lots, and we think that that is something that the city should consider, is having several parking lots that can actually be pinged as in Google in ways as actually pinned public parking lots. Update and improve the wayfinding signage and create a parking brand for Old Town and downtown. There is existing signage that's there, both wayfinding and parking lot signage. There's a parking outdated. It's not very visible sometimes. And so what we think that, having directional signage into the downtown area would be better, would be helpful, again, if you have this uniformed. I also think that if the city would properly name or number the lots, that again, it would help people find the lots better. Again, if you Google, historic, or parking in downtown Eureka, Old Town Eureka, it would actually, pin to, the first street, parking lot, or if you wanted to have them A, B, or C, or D. We think that would be something the city could do fairly quickly. And again, just improve the existing parking lots to promote enhanced walkability. Again, upgrade the lighting, resurfacing, restriping, cut back the landscaping that may be kind of grown up. Again, this kind of hints back to those safety concerns that people have, especially at night. That, if they park their car and they have to walk a couple of blocks, they want to make sure that where they're walking to and from is safe, or has the appearance of being safer than it is. So again, those are kind of some near-term things, some short-term things we think the city can do. Next slide. Maybe, hopefully. There we go. So again, another kind of midterm recommendation and strategy we think that we would suggest for the city is actually review the existing time limits, and explore options for either changing or eliminating maybe some of those time limits in portions of downtown and Old Town. So again, we talked about that 2 hour. The 2 hour seems really cumbersome for your employees and your business owners, and maybe some of the customers that come down. So maybe we could bump that up to a 3 hour time limit. Again, we think we should maintain controls in certain areas of Old Town, but then modify or eliminate those controls in other areas. We're particularly looking at, along 7th Street and maybe, 6th or 7th Street on the far south side of the study area. Do we really need a 2 hour parking control in those areas? Is that something, that we can just kind of have it just general parking, all day parking? Again, the more controls that are maybe eliminated, the more it kind of pushes people out. They know they don't have to either move their car, 2 hours, or they don't have to pay. And again, we think that there's an opportunity maybe for a pilot program for smart meters to be installed in portions of Old Town or around the county administrative complex. D Street, 1st, G, and 3rd, kind of that core of Old Town. That may be a good place for, having some sort of a pilot program for smart meters. And then around the county administrative complex and our data, that we have, that parking on street in particular is always full. And so maybe there's meters there that help flip that time as well, maybe an opportunity for the city. Again, we just want to stress these would all be pilot programs. It's not something that's going in permanently. And again, the newer technology allows for that to be done easier now. And so that kind of rolls into our next kind of set of recommendations, which is, installing smart meters. In existing, meters that we have now. That was one of the comments we had in the survey was the existing parking meters are broken, they don't work, and so we have great smart meter pilot, or we have great smart meter technology where you can use a credit card, you can pick, a longer time period. So the second one down, the employee and resident pilot parking permit, is actually, why don't create a permit program for employees, employers, and then also residents that, use, that come to downtown and Old Town on a daily basis. So this would allow the permit holders to park regardless of time restrictions. A nominal fee obviously would be, charged to cover administrative costs. But again, you can kind of see the little, example of the parking permit that we put there on the lower right-hand corner of the screen there. This is something they could hang in their window or their above their mirror there, rear view mirror. And it would just let, the parking administrators know that, they're here, they paid their fee. Probably would be best to start this maybe, again, as a pilot program, but then maybe in some of the public parking lots, we kind of utilize that area first, see what the response is, and then go from there. And then, exploring license plate recognition technology. This is something that can, be used, software that the city can purchase, that can be utilized, it's customer service enhancement. It also helps streamline, operations as well, because it can monitor time limits. Somebody does have a permit, maybe they forgot to hang their permit in their rearview mirror, but they can bring up the license plate and it has a tag to a permit. Yes, they did pay for a permit. And also payment compliance. People do have, parking tickets and they haven't paid them yet, and that kind of let them know that, they need to pay them. Friendly reminder. This last one is, shared parking agreements. Again, this is where I think those private parking lots that may be heavily utilized, during the day on the weekday, but are heavily underutilized at night or on the weekends can really come in. First of all, they can, allow a closer place for those employees that maybe work kind of after hours or later in the evening hours, your restaurants, your bars, they'd have a closer in place to park, and then also provide a revenue source for those owners of those parking lots as well. So that was just a recommendation and strategy that we came up with for the shared parking lots. Next slide. So this is kind of our long-term recommendations and strategies, you know, maybe a 3 to 5 year period. We really think that the city should consider, you know, improving that city-owned overflow lot at the foot of D Street along First Street, even if it's on a temporary basis. You know, we know that it is kind of a parking, it is known as a public parking lot, or it's identified as a public parking lot, but not a lot of people know about it. And so you can see the picture that I took right there, you can see how it's just not very welcoming. So, you know, actually grade it out, you know, maybe put some, you know, bumpers in, you know, or, you know, notate where people can park a little bit better. Again, increased lighting would help tremendously. But again, this can help for people, in, you know, coming to events as well as employees. Again, this could be a place for employees to park. But then also, you know, people with oversized cars, RVs, there were some survey results also about, you know, there's no place, really good place for us to park our RVs whenever they come downtown. We think there's a great opportunity to, you know, promote and expand your multimodal alternatives. Again, improve your bike infrastructure, put more bike racks out. I know that there's maybe a consideration at a later time of y'all having scooters, electric scooters in Old Town and downtown. But we also think that there should be kind of some sort of a shuttle service. And again, this could take any form. You can see the picture that they have there on the lower right hand is kind of a glorified golf cart to an extent that has sides to it. But this is something, you know, that can, you know, work on a fixed circuit throughout the Old Town and downtown area. It can go to this overflow lot, can pick up people, take them where they need to go, you know, 2 or 3 blocks away. And it's safe, you know, they could obviously contact it, you know, by cell phone or again, a fixed route would be great. This is something that the city could help, you know, fund, you know, Eureka Main Street, or I know that the Humboldt, you know, Transit Authority is also looking at maybe this as an option as well. And, you know, obviously businesses, restaurants, you know, bars, you know, Chamber of Commerce, they could actually, you know, have sponsorships and have their name on the doors or the sides of the shuttle as well. And, you know, we're not thinking of something that's, you know, would hopefully not have too much of an impact environmentally as well. We wouldn't want a bus or anything like that. We think that, you know, evaluating and expanding the parklet program would be great as well. You have about, I think, 8 or 9 currently right now. And yeah, and yes, they do take up, you know, a parking spot. But again, the more eyes on the sidewalks and on the streets you have, again, that kind of helps with that safety concern that people were having, especially after night, you know, after nighttime. And then, you know, once your parking demand reaches kind of that magic 85% threshold, you know, explore the viability and the need of a parking structure. Again, you know, per what we saw in the data that we collected over the summer, obviously, but in the years past, that 85%, you know, you're getting close to it in 2019, but you're just not there yet. And so really, whenever that has happened, where your parking is becoming so overutilized over a sustained period of time, 5 or 6 years, then that really think is whenever you should explore that particular option. You know, the other negative, unfortunately, about parking garages is that they're really expensive. And so, you know, someone's going to have to pay for that. But then there's also an opportunity for, you know, new development whenever it comes in. So, you know, maybe there's an opportunity for the city to partner with whatever's being built there to include some public parking as part of that project as well. I know that, again, that temporary overflow lot at the foot of D Street, that's kind of seen as a major opportunity for some new construction development, mixed use at some point. There would be a great opportunity, we think, for actually some public parking to be provided as part of that project if that happens in the future. And I think that is all. So again, the next steps, you know, we're talking to y'all tonight, hopefully get some great feedback, see if there's anything that we're missing, things that y'all really love. Yay, you're on the right track, or no, this absolutely will not work. We'll finalize this parking study. We'll get it to the city in the next couple of weeks for them to take a look at. And then we'll, you know, obviously issue the final parking study report. So I know that this is a public hearing and there's a format and a way to do these things. So we are here to answer any questions. If there's anything that we need to, slides we need to go back and forth, to, please let us know, and we will certainly do so. Again, thank you all for your time and your attention, and looking forward to hearing for your comments.
So I just want to clarify, this is not a public hearing. This is just a report. I wanted to be really clear about that. So,
sure. My apologies.
No, that's fine. Do we have any questions from anybody on council or comments, direction?
I have
Natalie
one.
or Councilmember Arroyo?
Thank you. I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the smart meters. Is there like a recommended guide or resource that you could direct us to that helps to understand some of those technology options and what might be a suitable fit for Eureka?
Yeah, we can definitely, in the report, we can actually go more in detail about what we think those should be. Absolutely. Okay. And again, it's, there's so many different styles and brands and companies that do those. And I think it'll just come down to whatever the city staff is comfortable with. Obviously, everybody there in Eureka would be comfortable with those being utilized, but we can provide more direction about maybe some more options for that. Yes.
And I'll follow up there is if we begin to look into some of that technology, because we know our parking meters at the end of their life. And so we know at the bare minimum, we want to upgrade those to a newer technology. And so we've begun to look out there. One of the first things we've done was we've looked up there to HSU and Arcata because they have some of that technology now. And so we have the ability to go up there and kind of take a look at it firsthand and talk to them and say, hey, what's worked, what hasn't worked. So we'll start there and we'll start to look at some other different manufacturers and say, hey, what are some options out there and what works best for us and our climate and such. So
great, thank you.
Councilmember Bauer.
No, Mark, thank you for the great report. I think that it was pretty eye-opening, the 85% threshold. I don't know much about. All I do know is I'm down in Old Town. I work in Old Town. It always seems like parking's pretty accessible for most people. So it's great to understand that that threshold that is kind of an industry standard. I think the ideas, a lot of great recommendations, like the 3-hour parking. I don't see why not, why we couldn't do something like that. If that improves, or the ability for people working down there to not have to run back and forth to their car, that's great. I think, a lot of these things are great. The smart meter, I'm not so sure about the license plate reader personally. I don't really think that's a great idea. It's the Big Brother thing. But I look forward to seeing the completed report. Thank you.
Councilmember Burgell.
So I wanted to thank you for the report. I was curious if we did look into smart meters. This may be a question for the city manager. Would the money from the meters go towards community efforts, perhaps different community projects or maintenance on the parking lots, that type of situation? Or where would the money for those meters go?
The revenue that we receive from the meters now is pretty nominal, but we could set up a certain, program project or whatever we would want with the funding that would come from that. And that would be up to county, in order to do that, we'd want an understanding of what the revenue coming in would be so they could fund whatever program or project the council wanted to do, but that could be established.
Okay. And then secondly, so in listening to the process and everything that was discussed, I didn't really hear any mitigation for and maybe there's not a plan yet for how to look at the parking for like our business owners. We've been getting a lot of input on that regarding the Earth Project and just businesses feeling really impacted with that. And I didn't hear anything specific in that report that was addressing that. So I'm curious if you could speak to that.
So it wasn't specific to that, but based on the analysis of the data and everything, some of those recommendations are things that we'll be looking at. Obviously, that shuttle service is one of them that we've already looked at as a part of the Earth Project. Once we develop the Earth Project and we start doing more parking studies, if there's need to implement other things, we can do that. But not only the shuttle service, but the 3-hour parking, the other recommendations that are there would all be a part of any development down there, as this was not only for existing conditions, but understanding that there's going to be future development down there, and that's where those recommendations came from.
Okay. And then I too am a fan of 3 to 4 hour parking, just because I've worked down there and I listen to people complain often that, you know, you're at work for 2 hours and you got to go out and, you know, move your car, and then you got to move your car. And if you don't roll it far enough, then you still get a ticket. And it's just this whole, you know, wonderful experience for folks. And then lastly, I was hopeful about D Street. If we did decide to look at D Street as a temporary parking lot, I would hope that we did it as temporary. That's beautiful property, and it really has opportunities other than parking, and I just hope we'll consider that. So
I can speak to, you know, we are working with some of the adjacent property owners down there at C to F, and as Councilmember Castellano had requested a couple of months ago, we are still working diligently on that plan. And at the time, if we were to implement something there, there's a potential that we could combine that project with some improvements with the rest of the lot as well. Okay. We'd need to be conscious that if it's council's desire to do this and have development there later, that we don't want to make too big of an investment in that property for parking.
Okay, and then lastly, I love the idea of naming the parking lots and using Waze and Google Maps to ping so people know where to go, because I think that is a problem. People really don't know. You know, they drive through Old Town, what looks like Old Town, like, you know, the gazebo or just a block up the Vance down to Humboldt Herbals, and they don't realize that, you know, there's a whole lot of other parking available that you just don't see off the street. So I think that's a great idea. Thank you. I'm done.
All right. Councilmember Castellano.
Let's see. I definitely appreciate the study in terms of giving us, you know, seems like thorough analysis of parking use over the last, you know, 8 years or so, since 2017, 2016. And I'm not personally a huge fan of D Street as parking, or I would prefer to see kind of social and pedestrian uses kind of highlighted more than parking uses, just because it looks like there is plenty of parking other places. And, you know, I mean, maybe small amounts of parking, let's see. And I do support some sort of ticket or tag for that employees who, you know, kind of work long hours could purchase for, you know, longer than 2 hour parking. I would personally be happy to purchase a parking pass and, you know, versus, you know, pay the meter or whatever. And I, from the feedback in my workplace, I think other employees would be interested in that as well.
And Councilmember Moulton.
I'm sorry, a 5-year-old just walked into my room. Just a moment. Thank you. Hi, thank you so much for this thorough report. I really appreciate getting really solid data, and especially going back before pandemic. I know a lot of people were concerned that we were only counting cars when Old Town was really empty. And I, you know, talking with business owners and talking with cadets, you know, people who tend to walk Eureka, I think this data really shows how your anecdotal understanding of a situation versus what's really available, there can be a big gap there. And so I'm grateful for real data. I'm very much, I love the idea of the parking cards. When I worked in Old Town, my boss subsidized one of those parking cards for the meters, and it was incredibly helpful. It was a small expense for the business, but it made such a huge difference if I could get at a meter or get into one of those lots for the whole day and not have to move my car every 2 hours while I was working. That just makes life so much easier. I do have a question. Can you give me the number of total parking spaces? You mentioned it at the beginning and I was impressed that it was that many.
So there are 3,114 parking spaces, and that is on street and off street in public and private parking.
And how many were just the public lots?
So just the public lots were 691, and then the private was 433.
Okay, and then private was 433. Thank you so much. That actually is a huge amount of perspective in this whole situation. Thank you. That's all my questions.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right. Do you guys feel like you have the direction that you need? Oh, Councilmember Arroyo.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if we were taking public comment on this, but since it's a report only, it's okay to go ahead with additional thoughts, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just had a couple of additional comments. I really like, in general, the approach that many cities take of phasing the length of stay and ensuring that closer to key destinations and busier parts of our Old Town and downtown area, people can park for shorter periods of time. And then if you want to walk a couple blocks, you can park for much longer. So I'd really like to see us incorporate that approach to the extent we can. And it sounds like some of the consideration around that is already happening, but I just, the idea of just making on-street parking or off-street parking a longer dwell time, to me, doesn't address the need that people are expressing for there to be easy and available parking for people who are just popping in to buy some things or, visit a few destinations. So, and I realize the data shows that there's sort of a mix of opinions about what the right length of time is. So I hope that you'll continue to explore that, and I'm excited to see that. I really like the focus on signage. Of course, the app is great, but I also recognize that as a driver, often one needs to not be looking at their phone. And frankly, we've had so many issues with pedestrian injuries and fatalities. And I'm very concerned about that. So anything that we can, I know so much when I travel, I notice how many people are looking at their phones for directions while they're in a new place. And we want to make sure that people can easily find parking when they're not looking at their phone using wayfinding signs. So I still think there's a place for that, even though clearly we do need to pin parking on Waze and Google. And then, I guess I'm interested in continuing to highlight approaches to reduce the demand for parking and not just manage the supply through things like, improved pedestrian facilities. We already have a lot of wonderful pedestrian facilities, but I realize we could always do better. And then bike facilities. And then of course, transit. And I like the highlighting of that shuttle, but our bike facilities in Old Town aren't great. So I think that keeps me from choosing that option. And I certainly have heard from the community of bike commuters and others that would be really beneficial. So I just wanted to highlight those things as my wishes for this study moving forward and for some of the outcomes. Thank you for your hard work on this.
All right. I just have one question. Did we look at any of the, making a one-way street and doing the, the perpendicular parking to get more spots? I know that's an option some places.
We as part of the study, we haven't. We've done some looking at that on our side. The challenge is some of the streets are somewhat narrow, but we have some of that stuff, and so we've looked at it as well. So I can kind of fill you guys in at some point once we dig in a little deeper on that.
Okay, it was just something that didn't come up that I've heard about, so I was curious. All right, I think that with that, we can move on. And if you have a comment about that, you can make it during public comment, which is coming up next. So we are at the public comment period. This is a time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda or have previously appeared on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and we will call on people in-house, and then we will move over to Zoom.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, you guys. You're talking about road safety. It's I guess it's okay putting up all those signs, but what you really need is some reflective tape. Start handing that out to all the homeless and drug transients so people can see them, because a lot of them are out there playing Frogger. You got a crosswalk right here, and 20 to 30 feet from it, they're trying to frog across the freeway. This is a city with a freeway going through it. It's not your regular city. And I don't know, I mean, I'm sure there's some people that haven't heard it, but a lot of people are hearing about, yeah, I almost hit somebody, and I got friends that are videotaping it and stuff. They just walk right out in front, and you can't walk out there with dark clothing on and nobody can see you at night. You know how it is with completely black clothing on. I mean, I'm not being sarcastic. I'd get some reflective strips and start handing them out. The shoulder, back, wherever, because you can see that as soon as the headlights even try to hit that. You got a lot of people walking around that aren't paying attention. You got sleeping bags over their head. My daughter ended up killing one of those people about 3 years ago, just on the outskirts of Eureka, right by the Humboldt Hill overpass. He was walking down the medium, and she was in the passing lane. She couldn't go right because there was a car there, so she tried to go around him, and she just barely clipped him, and he died later down in Santa Rosa. But, you know, it's traumatizing for the people that hit him, too. It's not just the person getting hit, and I think those reflective strips would really work out great. I guarantee it would reduce it. And maybe do something about the problem to begin with it, you know, drug addict transients walking around at night with clothing, black clothing on. I've been to these motels in Eureka because my daughter's homeless right now. They got her in the motels, and these motels are a disgrace. They are drug dens with nothing but fentanyl running through them. My daughter used to be a heroin addict. She's got 2 years clean, and she said she doesn't even recognize the traffic of it. People were only asking her for fentanyl. And you weren't here last time, but I was over at the Laguna Inn right next to McDonald's. And I mean, there's prostitution going on right there by the dumpster with the queen mattress and shooting up in open public. I mean, I've been coming here for 3.5 years, and I don't understand why you guys won't do anything to try to better this community. I've been told that by you, Mayor, that Eureka is so safe, everybody gives you compliments on it all the time, and that's just not the case. It's not a safe place to be, and everybody knows it. And I have never seen you guys do anything to make it safer. I see a lot of talk about artwork and this and that, and that's fine, but you got to clean up the city before you start putting artwork everywhere. You need to help the people of this community to feel safer, and the people that are affecting it need to be taken care of. They're on drugs. They're addicted to drugs. They have no place to live, a lot of them. And then you got some of them that want to live that way. So I'd appreciate it if you'd clean your city up. Once again, thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, fellow citizens of Eureka. Here we are. What resonates from the findings of the research done, of the survey done, is that we need to make Eureka safe again. Well, and that's a common theme. Yeah, make Eureka safe again. I've been harping on that for many years, as you well know.
Cornelius, your mic's off.
Oh, sorry. Hello. Will that work? Switch it on. Will my time be stopped? Is the light green? Hello. Hello?
Can you hear now, Natalie?
No, here we go.
Okay.
So survey shows clearly, and the fact that's been ignored by all of you is up to this point, is that Eureka needs to be made safe again. Make Eureka safe again. That's what I've been harping on for years and years and years. I came here as a little German Jewish immigrant, I love Eureka. Eureka was my home. I was so proud I found it. Same birthplace, Alexander von Humboldt and I, both Berliners. I really loved it, and I wanted to be part of an eclectic, charming artist community, being a leather maker myself, and I loved the tourists coming, and I loved to speak German, French, Polish, whatever walked in my door in European tourists. I had the pleasure to talk to them, and I used to promote Eureka until Eureka, and I loved it. I had 2 shops in Eureka, and I loved it. The first 7 years in Eureka until 2017 were the happiest days of my life. I woke up every morning and I said, I never regretted coming from San Francisco. I never regretted moving from Berlin. I love Eureka so much. It was the happiest time of my life. And that is why I got pretty upset once I saw the writings on the wall and the needles on the street and the feces in the alley, knowing that things were going down south and nothing was being done about it. And we laudated, for example, Freudian slip, Brandy Wilson, Hatcher, and we sucked up to those people and for the grant money that came with it. But what we did is we butchered the very perception of us people here in Eureka of safety away. And that's just the common theme wherever you go, whomever you talk with. I love Eureka. Berlin is 15,000 miles from here. And I moved, lawful, legal, permanent resident, very proud of being so. I love Eureka, and that's why I'm fighting for it. And that's why I address issues that need to be addressed. And as we always say, we are a unique community, come up with unique solutions. Hold people accountable. Transparency, accountability, responsibility, the only tar we need from our city leaders and in programs. We have to have approaches where harm reduction doesn't bleed out literally onto the whole community, the community as a whole. You have no idea how bad the alley behind my business looks. I mean, it's just, strewn with feces and needles, but we're harping on this forever. We need, said that right there, we need to clean up, we need to disinfect Old Town. We have to find a whole new way to promote Old Town after we made Eureka safe again. Have a good evening.
Good evening. So anyway, the safety has been brought up a couple of times, and I'm struck by the dichotomy between your guys' opinion of the safety of Old Town and the people's opinion that actually live and work there. And I'm struck by it, and almost as much as I'm struck by the dichotomy between that parking assessment and the reality of Old Town. I think any parking assessment that includes everything from A to L streets as being accessible parking for Old Town shopping, when the district actually runs from about E to H, it's kind of disingenuous. Excuse me if I'm wrong, but matter of fact, if this all goes through, and if I ever see any of you parking in the gravel lot at the foot of D Street and riding a scooter up to Old Town, up to Las Cosas Brewery, I will gladly eat my words. But I don't think any one of you are going to do that or would even consider it. And no one else is going to either. So to include all those outlying areas in a parking assessment for the core area of Old Town, it's completely disingenuous. It has no basis in reality, and it should even, I can't believe that we spent, how much money did you guys contract with this outfit for to do that assessment? That's just ludicrous. Beyond that, now that the mask mandates have been lifted, everyone thinks COVID's over. But I want to remind you all that there is still a vax mandate in effect that you guys have the power to lift. In my house alone, we've had several problems with the vax. My wife spent over 4 months in the hospital starting the day after she got her first vax shot. She literally died. They cut her open from tits to puss, took out a bunch of her internal organs that were destroyed by the vax. She's home now, but she's not doing well. And there was no reason for her to take it in the first place. She was coerced into taking it against her wishes. Our entire household was infected by a triple vax person about 3 weeks ago. The one person in the house that was triple vax was far sicker than the other two of us. As far as I'm concerned, there was never any justification for the vax mandate in the first place, and I think you all need to look at rescinding it and ending this nonsense once and for all. Like Cornelius was saying, you need to be leaders. We're a unique community, and we need to actually act like we can think for ourselves. And rather than going by what other people are doing other places, look at what you're doing and be leaders. Lift the mandates.
Hello, is this on? Okay. Hi Susan. You weren't here last time. When I was here, I started off by acknowledging that I appreciate all the projects that are coming forward. I think it's great to improve the city, and I am concerned on how long it'll last. You know, just like with a lot of the murals that we see on the electric boxes around towns, a lot of them get defaced and destroyed. You know, there's a lot of people in this community that don't appreciate what we do have and destroy things. And I'm glad that the previous speakers also highlighted what I was going to highlight is the big thing that jumped out to me with this parking assessment was the biggest concern by far is safety. And I've been seeing this drum get beat for years, and I haven't been coming to city council meetings for years. I recently started attending because I'm a father now, and things are getting worse. And I think Cornelius did highlight around 2017, things did get bad. I'm not going to make an association with who, how, or why, but, you know, I do love Eureka, and it's not the same place that I moved to. And I've got my kid here. I can't leave. I would if I could, because part of me wakes up every day wondering if it's worth fighting for. But my kid's here, I'm here, and I'm going to fight for it. I'm not going to back down. And I think it's horrible that we just had this presentation that highlighted safety concerns, and everybody here was mostly focused on how long they can work without having to move their car, rather than safety. You know, we've got people getting run over in the streets. We've got people getting mugged and shot. I mean, this place is kind of a dump. I mean, if we want to, instead of focusing on, like, when we look at the 85 percentile that he was talking about, I think we want to push that bar higher with tourism. Let's bring money here, not just through weed. You know, that's not even happening that much anymore. But, like, this place was beautiful years ago. It was great. And what happened? What happened? I mean, I'm not going to make accusations or point fingers, but you guys can answer that question. You know, you're the leaders. You guys can talk about it amongst yourselves instead of having people back here pointing at this person or this organization or that organization, you know, because there is a safety concern. Last time I was here, I woke up in the morning and I had somebody in my driveway. And instead of bugging EPD, I dealt with it, you know, with compassion. I was nice. But, like, it's not just Old Town. It's all over the place. And as I pointed out last time, it might not be in your guys' face every day like it is ours. Some people, it affects their livelihood. It doesn't affect my livelihood, but it does affect my home life and my peace and how I have to raise my daughter. I have to teach a 2-year-old what a syringe is. When I was growing up, I didn't have to worry about that. My parents didn't have to do that with me. I had to teach her about what to do when gunshots ring off. You know, lay on the floor, don't go to the window, things like that. When I was a kid, I learned how to handle a firearm properly, not hide on the floor because they were popping off outside my house. You know, there's safety concerns that are not being focused on, and you guys just highlighted it by focusing on 2-hour versus 3-hour parking instead of safety. I would hope that you guys can think about this and address it, please. Thank you.
So speaking of, is this where I speak into?
Yes.
Okay. So speaking of quote unquote vaccines, the FDA, when they pushed through the approval, Christopher Cole at the FDA admitted that they really just extended the EUA and that they did it in that particular fashion so that they didn't have to procure efficacy data, so that, because usually like medication that you find off your shelves, there's like 20 or so years of testing. And so what I have a problem with is the way that they approved it, because now they're going to be doing that with every medication across the board. Everything from Tylenol to cough syrup to cough drops. I don't know how anyone could trust anything that comes from the FDA. So speaking of needles everywhere, Gavin Newsom came up with his latest grift where he's going to target homeless people and put them in conservatory programs. After 10 years of having homeless people wander around and smearing feces on the walls. What were they doing for 10 years helping the homeless people? Because what it looks like is 2 years of the entire universe shut down and letting homeless people just wander around, and now they're going to be like, oh, well, we'll take the homeless people, put them in mental institutions that were like condemned by the ACLU like 20 years ago, and then and he emphasizes that we're going to make billions and billions of dollars by taking on the homeless people. I'm like, does this guy have any shame at all? He's just like, oh, we'll take homeless people and then we'll get their bank accounts. Just unreal. unreal. The lack of shame. It's just money. That's all they care about. So I've heard countless people who've taken this vaccine and their internal organs shut down. On the CDC website, it says if you have allergen information, it has allergen. There's certain allergen information that you should be aware of. And so, you're taking this drug that could, one person was not able to retain water, couldn't go to the bathroom, they had neurological damage. They couldn't do like hard work anymore. Pushing these unethical procedures when you're not doctors and you have no medical school experience is kind of unethical. And then all the CDC information comes from Pfizer. So you get this weird circular logic where it's like, well, Pfizer says that the Pfizer drug works.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's circular reasoning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other public comment in-house? If not, I will turn to Zoom, and it looks like we have Ash.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, this is Ash Teeter with the Humboldt Freedom Coalition speaking on non-agenda items. As I have reminded the council of on numerous occasions, my wife, a city employee in good standing for 5 years previous, lost her job at the end of last year. For no other reason than the fact that she would not inject something into her body that she had doubts as to the safety and related long-term effects. This shot she refused to take has not lived up to any of its promises. Originally, it was said to stop transmission, prevent infection, stay in the injection site, not alter DNA, and offer robust, lifelong immunity. Now it is common public knowledge that these shots do not stop transmission or prevent infection. It has been revealed that the shots do not stay in the injection site, and it's kind of obvious being that our blood circulates through our entire body. Recently, Moderna has came out in a new business venture openly admitting that their therapies fundamentally change people's DNA. And Pfizer was forced by a judge to release data on its first 3 months of vaccine rollout, showing 1,200 reported deaths and 40,000 reported adverse reactions. Also displaying that half the shots they gave out were placebos. So that might be why some people are confident of their efficacy. Pfizer originally intended to not release this data for 55 years. Now, after releasing it, they are taking the company off the market and it will no longer be openly traded. Previously, talking to a member of this council, I was made aware that due to being busy, the person I was having the conversation with was not aware of similar concerns I had at the time, such as COVID internment camps in other countries like Australia, and legislations for similar internment camps in closely neighboring states like Washington and nationally through the CDC. That's the green zones they talk about. This was concerning due to the fact that members of the council are running for other leadership roles in the counties. If anyone on the council is looking to further their political career, I recommend doing your own research on global issues that affect us locally, not solely relying on corporate-funded media and medical propaganda. This would prove an interest in recognizing reality for what it truly is. Following this recognition, it will be respectable to acknowledge mistakes that have been made, like the discriminatory medical policy that the city has had in place for its employees regarding COVID shots. Lastly, it will be appropriate to fix the broken policy and make amends to those who have been wronged by the illogical, unconstitutional, illegal overreach that has taken place under your watch. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Caroline Griffith.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate this hybrid meeting structure, and I hope that it's something that carries on post public health emergency. It really makes meetings more accessible for folks who can't make it down to that site, and also makes it more comfortable for those of us who want to stay at home and watch. So please consider keeping this as a permanent feature of Eureka City Council meetings. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Oh, we have. Okay.
Hi, my name is Latanya Jacob. I have a few items. One is the location of the federal DOR office in the state of California. I just wanted to know for that, where would one go to? That's one question. Policies regarding operation of a business in the state of California and Eureka. Do you have specific guidelines? Like, do you have to submit a business plan? I thought to get a business license, you would have to do that. Well, I'm just wondering, I had to deal with a couple of merchants in the city of Eureka, and some of the problems that I'm having, wondering if perhaps maybe understanding the California and Eureka's policies regarding anyone who's going to operate a business in this area, in the city, that would help me to know what recourse I would have. And other would be, there's a couple. Another would be with the police department. I don't know if you can do anything about it. I would think it's a good idea, or suggest that they have their lobby open longer than and extend their lobby services. That's what because to me, to just not be able to walk into the 24 hours is so much. I know it's open 24 hours, but the lobby isn't. And so I don't know how feasible that is, but I would think it's a necessary thing to do. Let's see. The parking situation, I don't know if this is feasible, but there's a piece of some land in the city of Eureka at the north end of town across from FedEx. I know that is a marsh. I don't know if that's possible to put a park and ride there, if that's an issue. I know that they have something like that in the city of Fortuna, but and of course I've seen it. It's not people parking there, but I don't know if there's this issue with parking. So, and all my other comments I will submit online. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. All right. I don't see any other public comment at this time, either on Zoom or in-house. So we will move on to our next item, which is the consent calendar. I understand we might want to pull F9, Councilmember Bauer, or you?
No, actually, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to pull? If not, can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
I'll second.
All righty. We have a motion and a second. So everybody vote.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Unanimous yes vote. Motion carries.
All right. Then we will move on to the next item, which is legislative action correspondence. And I actually did have something to bring for that. It's come up. Everything about this has been very fast. The California Department of Social Services did a wonderful thing by making $100 million, by appropriating $100 million for what they call the Minor Renovation and Repair Grant Program for childcare facilities. And everybody was very excited until they found out that, one, the whole grant had a month to be completed, which included bids from contractors, understanding, getting DUNS numbers, just a whole lot of stuff that's way beyond the capacity of child care providers to do in 1 month. And then once they got the grant, if they did, they would have 120 days to complete the project. If you've tried to get construction done here locally, to say, hey, can you do a job for me and get it done in 120 days is just virtually impossible. This is actually happening all over the state, but the Humboldt Emergency Response and the Humboldt Child Care Task Force is writing a letter asking the state to please extend that deadline. And we would love the city to also include a letter that says, thank you for making this available. It's a really wonderful opportunity if we can only use it. So is everybody okay with sending that letter? I didn't think it was going to be terribly controversial. Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any legislative correspondence that they need to send right away? Oh, uh-huh.
Pam, did you get my vote?
On here?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I just didn't push the button. That's why I wasn't sure. Still? Oh. I don't know whose it is. It's not.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh. Anyway, yes.
I'll keep it.
Thank you.
Thanks for catching that. All right. If nobody else has any legislative action correspondence, we will move on to reports and action items. And I will invite Principal Planner Getz to talk to us about the General Plan Annual Progress Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, Council. California Government Code Section 65400 requires cities and counties to submit an annual progress report, or APR, on the general plan and its implementation to the City Council and the state by April 1st of each year. We have a total of 35 implementation programs listed in the general plan, and the report before you this evening shows the progress made from January 1st to December 31st, 2021. Staff is recommending you receive the report at tonight's meeting. Once you do, the report will then be submitted to the State Department of Housing and Community Development, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That was the presentation?
That was the presentation.
Does anybody have any questions? Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, Principal Planner Getz, I had a question on, it's AQ-1. It's the implementation of the Climate Action Plan, and it says by summer 2023. I just thought we were on track to get that done this year. Is it still hung up at the county? What's kind of the status of that?
We actually just received an email update on that late this afternoon from the County of Humboldt. And it looks like they're now indicating that the public review draft would be available the week of March 28th. So yes, we are still a little hung up on that, but I think that I think we're closer now than we have been in the past.
So hopefully that timeline is something that's, it'll be more advanced in 2023.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Principal Planner Getz? Oh, Councilmember Bauer.
I do have one more, and it's M5 Joint Traffic Impact Fee. And I don't want to say, I mean, I know that it says we're in discussions with the county, and I don't mean to want to belabor this, but I just would like to see this dealt with, especially if, I think there's a 200 unit housing subdivision plan outside of our immediate, area of influence or outside out in the county. So I would just like to make sure that we get that addressed before those homes get built, because those people living there are going to impact our streets, and the county needs to pay their share of that, additional traffic. So that's all. I just wanted to, hopefully that's going to be sped up before too long here.
So I can provide an update on that. Our public works staff has been in discussions with county public works staff, and it's likely that something is going to go in front of the Board of Supervisors, and we will bring something back after those discussions to council for consideration as well, because hopefully we can do this as partners and implement a fee together, but we're waiting on the county to see what they do, and if it doesn't happen soon, we'll come back to council with an impact fee of our own.
Councilmember Burgell.
I actually have a question about that. So if the county, because I mean, they're providing the impacts. So if they do decide that they aren't interested, can they actually be not interested in paying that fee? And if so, how will we address that? Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but
So
I'm
the
just kind of
potential for impacts is higher in the county because they have more developable area. But I mean, obviously, development in our area have similar impacts. That's why we would need to implement a fee as well. It is a part of the CEQA document that was put forward for the Martin Slough Enhancement Project, and that could cause some issues for them for sure. And depending on where we're at with our impact fee, there could be issues for them as well. I think we need to see what happens on the county end and then proceed after that.
do you have any timeline for when they're going to respond to us?
We've been in discussions. We've actually
Okay.
already done a study to determine what that rate would be and what it would be used for. Our intention is to work with a consultant and hopefully in conjunction with the county to update that study and hopefully put in some alternative modes of transportation as uses for some of those funds as well. And update study, figure out the fee, and implement it on both ends. So
Okay,
that's
so
the intention.
Sorry, let me ask a better question. What's the timeline on getting that done? That's probably a better question.
So if the county, we don't hear back from the county within a month or two, we'll likely be coming back to council with something on our own. Hopefully it'll be in partnership with the county.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Councilmember Arroyo has a question.
I have 3. I can break them up if you'd like.
I think we
they're
could
all
go
very
all 3.
okay. Great. So I wanted to understand a little bit more about the EIFD, the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, that's under implementation measure E4. I was not aware that we were pursuing an EIFDA for Eureka, unless I missed it somehow. I know that's under development services, so I'm not sure who would be able to speak to that, but what's the, it looks like we're pursuing funds for that and potentially our partner for one.
Actually, that information came from economic development. So
I can assess. This is the one that I believe council has heard from the Samoa Peninsula in conjunction with the county for development on the peninsula.
So we're potentially a partner because of the lands that we own on the Samoa Peninsula, but not in Eureka, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. My next question, give me just a sec to scroll to my notes, is about this traffic calming toolkit. And I see that it says it's substantially complete and it's part of the transportation safety plan. I just wanted a little reminder about when that will be, I guess, ready for public consumption.
Would that be,
I know that's Public Works.
Yeah, I was gonna say, would that be you, Director Gerving?
an M2.
He looked very settled in the back of the room. He was like, really? You're going to ask me a question?
Sorry, Brian.
I was looking surprised. I apologize. I'm not sure exactly what the reference to the Transportation Safety Action Plan and the Traffic Calming Toolkit is in the update that's before you tonight. However, the annual update of the Transportation Safety Action Plan, I think went to the TSC this month, and council will be hearing an update on collisions at its next meeting. The toolkit has been in the Transportation Safety Action Plan for some time. It's basically a set of techniques that can be used for traffic calming in various areas depending upon the configurations of roadways. And so I don't think there's really any update that's necessary to that toolkit, which is why it's already substantially complete.
Thank you. I think, since people reach out to us all the time and ask about how to slow traffic on their street or how to address certain issues, I know time and time again, I reach out to you and say, so-and-so requested a stop sign. And, I frequently hear from staff, well, it doesn't meet the warrants for a stop sign, or here are the approaches that we think would work well. And I'd love to be able to share that resource with people, so that I'm not, often I know the answer, but it's like, I think if they saw a set of resources, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
So I wonder.
We can look at putting something together that's a little easier for folks to understand, that lays that information out in a slightly less technical manner. I know that, when we provided some responses to emails from council that have come from constituents, it's a very technical response with a lot of information to digest. So we can put something together that's a little more digestible and at the same time provides information that really lays out for people what their options might be. Now, all that being said, we're always happy to talk with folks, and Scott Ellsmore, Transportation Special Projects Manager, is talking with people endlessly about what options would work in their settings. 6th and 7th Street, we've met with folks at length there to look at various options and what's appropriate and what's not, given the configurations of streets in various parts of town. So we're happy to continue doing that.
So, and this is just along those lines, we're talking about there's a monthly thing in the newsletter too about traffic safety and transportation safety. So
thank you. Well, I have one more, but it's not for you, Director Gerving, so thank you for that.
Actually, then can I interrupt you, because Councilmember Begel has a question based on that one. So since we have him up here.
So my understanding, at one point, wasn't the Transportation Safety Action Plan available on the website? Have they taken it off the website to update it, or?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to look.
Okay.
I do know that there are links that periodically get broken and buried when things get moved around. So we'll check into that and make sure it's available.
That would be great. And then we could put in the newsletter maybe that this is where this is available. And
sure,
that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councilmember Arroyo.
Thank you. The last one I had pertains to the implementation measure HS2, and it's about defensible space and wildfire mitigation. And I see that the updates related to the tree ordinance, which is great. I was not clear on whether our current general plan or zoning code require or talk about the strategy of having people post their address really clearly. I've been going to a lot of addresses recently and realizing that is sometimes they're very hard to find. And for emergency services, that's really important for police, fire, and ambulance services. So is that something that we already have spelled out in a document?
So I believe the building code specifies the size of the numbers and that need to be put onto both residential and commercial structures. I don't have that information in front of me right now, but we can certainly get that for you.
I just wondered if part of that, in addition to looking at the tree rules, if we could also maybe have some focus on, Humboldt Bay Fire does such a great job with social media, and this, the city has those channels too, and we do, a good job getting information out. So if we could just remind people of what the rules are. I know I personally need to add probably some bigger address information on the front of my house. So that would be great to include.
All right. Any Councilmember Castellano?
Since it's a report, we can questions, comments, all of that, or are we?
Yes.
Okay.
I will ask for public comment too, but you can go ahead and ask questions or comments.
I can wait. I'll wait.
I think that's the way it works, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, I'll do public comment first, then we'll do comments
Sure, yeah.
back. Okay. Do we have anybody who would like to make a public comment on this item?
My name is Latanya Jacob, and I'm wondering if this is the person I need to talk to ask about my question that I mentioned a few minutes ago about the businesses. I know you guys talk about like physical places in Eureka, standards for people who want to, for building and requirements. But if you want, businesses that want to move into the area, what are the do you have protocol for Eureka businesses or in your policy? And if so, could you tell me where I could find it? Online or wherever. So that's it.
Thank you. All right, then I will come back and I will invite Councilmember Castellano to make comments.
Sure. Well, firstly, thanks for bringing this forward. It was kind of refreshing just to remember that a lot of the things that we've been working on with projects such as the Earth Center are actually already in this plan, in terms of bike and pedestrian and different kinds of transit access. One of the things on my radar and looking over it is an appreciation of the kind of interest in historic buildings and, cultural resources, but often it seems like the kind of metric for that is something, is like the Green Book or sort of items that have marked a particular period in history. And so I just want to kind of bring forward this sense that especially, as we see these really great projects coming forward, like the WeGot Cultural Center and the Eureka Chinatown project, just that we kind of open up this sense of like what those historic phases and things could look like and be identified as. It's not too heavy in here, but it's like, I just think that there's kind of a potential for reimagining of that. Those markers for cultural and historic significance. And then in terms of the traffic calming toolkit, just because this recently kind of happened, when I reread this, I was like, because I put on a street festival last weekend, but I was like, like something people could actually check out when they're putting on a block party to calm traffic. Like a literal toolkit you could pick up. So I don't know. Maybe it's only just slightly referred to in this, but I think it could be useful. And then, this actually would be a question. I know at some point there was kind of talk of another bike route along C Street or B Street, and I was just curious about if that was still a concept that was being developed or where that was in the thinking process.
So I'll take this so Public Works Director Gerving doesn't have to get up. But yes, the C Street Bike Boulevard is something that I believe it was last year that we went for grant funding for, and we're not successful, but staff will continue to pursue grant funding for that boulevard. And then, of course, as a part of the link development and that affordable housing sustainable communities grant that we were not successful with, there's also an M Street bike boulevard that's proposed in that as well, and that will still be pursued as well.
Thank you very much. Anything else? All right. So does anybody have any additional comments, or I guess we vote to receive the report? Somebody wants to make a motion to do that. You don't have to do that? Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, then we can move on to the next item, or next comments. All right, then we will move on to item I2, Housing Element Annual Progress Report. I believe that's also Senior Planner Getz.
That is, thank you. And good evening again, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is the required annual progress report for our housing element. This covers the period also from January 1st to December 31st, 2021. State housing element law requires the city to accommodate a share of the total projected housing needs for Humboldt County for the planning period, which is also called a cycle. This share, called the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, is important because state law mandates that each jurisdiction provide sufficient land to accommodate a variety of housing opportunities for all economic segments of the community. Compliance with this requirement is measured by the jurisdiction's ability to provide adequate land with adequate density and appropriate development standards to accommodate the RHNA. The Humboldt County Association of Governments, or HCOG, as the regional planning agency, is responsible for allocating the RHNA to individual jurisdictions in the region. For the current Housing Element 6 cycle, which covers 2019 to 2027, the jurisdictions within Humboldt County have been allocated a total of 3,392 dwelling units. The total RHNA allocation for the county is distributed across the 4 housing income levels, which include very low income, moderate income, and above moderate income. HCOG then assigns the RHNA to each incorporated city and the unincorporated portion of the county. This graph shows the percent of the total RHNA allocation for each jurisdiction. The city of Eureka has been allocated a RHNA of 952 units, and those are divided into the 4 income levels as follows: 231 very low income units, 147 low income units, 172 moderate income units, and 402 above moderate income units. This graph shows the city of Eureka's RHNA allocation in orange as compared to the overall countywide allocation in blue, again by income level. Eureka's housing element divides sites available for development of housing into 2 categories. The first is housing development on non-site specific parcels, which means the parcels are not specifically identified in the housing element. And the second is site specific. These are sites that have actually been identified by parcel number in the housing element. If we assign the non-site specific targets for the entire period covered by the housing element to an income level, we need 32 very low, 60 low, 248 moderate, and 140 above moderate units for a total of 480 non-site specific units. The city tracks and reports to the State Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, the total number of building permits that are approved each year for residential uses. A building permit is approved when plans have been submitted and reviewed for conformance with building, fire, and zoning codes and public works requirements. And it's also ready to go, but the permit hasn't been issued yet. Issuance of residential building permits is the second thing we track. And when a building permit is issued, it means fees have been paid and work can begin. And lastly, we track and report when a certificate of occupancy is granted for a residence. A certificate of occupancy means all required inspections have been completed and passed, and owners or renters can actually start living in the residence. One thing to keep in mind as we review the information relating to the number of building permits. Except when we include prior years, the information shown in the report is only for the building permits that were approved, issued, or received a certificate of occupancy between January 1st and December 31st of 2021. So if someone applied for a permit in 2018 and it was approved a couple of months later, but they didn't pick it up until the first half of 2019, and then it took them a year and a half to finish the project and get a certificate of occupancy, that permit would actually show up in 3 different housing element APRs. It would show up as approved in 2018, issued in 2019. It would not show up on the 2020 report, and we would report it as having received a certificate of occupancy in 2021. There may also be some building permits that are actually completed in the same year, and that permit would then only show up in 1 housing element APR. So if we look at the building permits that were approved for 2021, we can see that an overall total of 68 dwelling units were approved this year. If we add in the totals from 2019 and 2020, an additional 49 units received building permit approval, and that means that building permits for a total of 117 units have been approved since 2019. This graph shows the number of target dwelling units in blue, with the number of actual building permits approved in orange for 2021. And then this graph shows the number of target dwelling units, again in blue, with the number of building permits approved between 2019 and 2021 in orange. Here are the building permits that were issued for 2021, again by income level, with 19 permits issued. And if we add in the totals from 2019 and 20, building permits for an additional 18 units were issued, with a total of 37 dwelling units receiving a building permit since 2019. This graph shows the number of target dwelling units in blue, with the number of building permits that were actually issued in 2021 in orange. And here's the graph that shows the number of target dwelling units still in blue, with the number of building permits issued between 2019 and 2021 in orange. And finally, here are the building permits that actually received certificates of occupancy for 2021, again by income level, with 17 dwelling units approved for use. And if we add in the totals from 2019 and 20, an additional 92 units have received a certificate of occupancy during the current housing element, for a total of 109 new dwelling units available for habitation during the current housing element period. And here's the graph that shows the target number of dwelling units in blue, with the number of certificates of occupancy issued in 2021 in orange. And here are the certificates of occupancy issued between 2019 and 2021 in orange. As I mentioned before, the housing element divides sites between non-site specific and site specific, and each type has different ways that housing could be created. Housing development on non-site specific parcels could be created through construction of accessory and or junior accessory dwelling units, small lot and conservation subdivisions, and division or conversion of existing spaces. For accessory dwelling units, the goal of the housing element is to create a total of 160 ADUs between 2019 and 2027 in 3 income levels. In 2021, we issued certificates of occupancy for 9 ADUs. And in 2019-20, we issued certificates of occupancy for 15 ADUs, which gives us a total of 24 certificates of occupancy issued for ADUs since 2019. For divisions or conversions of existing spaces, the goal is to create 160 dwelling units between 2019 and 2027 in 4 different income levels. In 2021, we again issued 9 certificates of occupancy for conversions of existing space into dwelling units. However, there were no conversions in previous years, so our total since 2019 remains at 9. The third way to create housing on non-site specific locations is to subdivide using either a small lot or conservation subdivision. The goal is to develop 160 dwelling units in 2 income categories. And in 2021, the city approved small lot subdivisions that created a total of 9 parcels, with 7 of them being vacant. Although no new dwellings were proposed on any of the newly created lots before the end of 2021, I believe at least 3 of the sites will apply for development in 2022. There were no small lot subdivisions in 2019 or 20, so our total since 2019 remains at 9. The other type of site that's available for housing development is site specific, as I mentioned before, and these sites have been identified by parcel number in the housing element and are currently either vacant or non-vacant sites. These sites include the housing on publicly owned lots, but there's been no development on these sites as of yet. And since we need to change implementation program H34 to remove the Cooper Gulch and the Sheriff's Woodlot sites, and we need to add in the new sites that we've been working on for the last year, staff has submitted a draft update to HCD for their 60-day review. Once we have resolved any comments HCD has, The update will go to the Planning Commission for recommendation and eventually to you for adoption. We will then be able to issue the RFPs for development on the next set of site-specific locations. The last thing I want to share with you this evening is an update on where we are with our overall RENA. We have a goal of a minimum of 952 dwelling units, again, spread over 4 income categories. For 2021, we issued certificates of occupancy for 17 dwelling units, sorry, not 19 as it says there. In 2019 and 20, we issued certificates of occupancy for 92 units, which is a total of 111 new units. This means only 841 dwelling units to go if we were to create dwellings for all of our RENA goals. And that's the end of my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions that I can for you.
You know, the thing that makes me nervous about that is that our RENA numbers were selected before we had all of this new growth coming up. So they're probably low, and it's not fast enough. It's not, I mean, I just wish it could be faster. Does anybody have any questions? Councilmember Castellano.
Thanks for the report. And I appreciate how kind of thorough it is. I noticed that some of the kind of educational related materials haven't been implemented yet. Is that just because of, I know there's a lot on staff's plate. So is it just kind of a shortage of staffing to do that? Or what are the reasons? And does it seem like it's going to be able to be implemented?
Yes, it is a combination of a lot on our plates right now, and some shortages of staff or staffing that's less than the amount that we had when we actually implemented the housing element in 2019. So it is on our list to get to these things. We are actually going to be dedicating one of our planners to working on some of these things that either are close to being overdue or actually are a little overdue, so that we can kind of get started on some of these things. So I'm hoping that in 2022, a lot of these will come to fruition.
That makes sense. And then I noticed, we didn't go forward with the downtown specific plan. Has the waterfront specific plan kind of replaced that emphasis, or do you think we're just postponing the downtown specific plan till later and focusing on the waterfront for now?
So the opportunity to do the waterfront specific plan actually came up with funding available to do that. So we jumped at that chance. Unfortunately, we weren't able to include the inland portion in the budgeted amount that we received under our SB2 funding. So the downtown specific plan is still something that we're definitely interested in pursuing, and we would be looking for funding to be able to do that in the future.
That makes sense. And then this is sort of more of a theoretical question, I guess, from you, just because this is what you're immersed in often, or a good portion of your days. What do you think would be the most useful kind of tools and techniques for getting more housing built? And maybe
there's probably a lot of answers to that question. We are continuing to look at our development standards to make sure that we're not putting barriers up to for folks to be able to do development. I believe that one of the issues that local developers are having, especially for development of accessory dwelling units, for example, is that finding financial support in order to be able to do construction has been very difficult. So I think that if we were able to develop some sort of program that could maybe help defray some of those costs, or create some sort of a loan program if possible, I think that would be helpful and may get additional property owners interested in doing development. So,
thank you.
Councilmember Arroyo.
on that note, I'm always intrigued to read about kits, and I don't know if like prefab structures are really a cost-saving measure or not, especially given the building code requirements that they need to meet and foundation needs and all of that. Have you encountered any good resources for people to, I'm thinking about the challenges of finding folks to work on construction projects right now locally. Not just the financing, but the availability of people to implement projects is tough. And I wonder if there's any kind of, I guess we talked a little bit about a toolkit earlier for traffic calming, but like a toolkit for exploring the resources. I know we can't recommend any specific company, but it's like, how do people find a cost-effective resource if they can't build their own home, but they were stymied by the availability of contractors? Do you have any thoughts in that regard?
So on one hand, not having availability of contractors is probably a good thing, because that means that they're all busy in building things, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, it does kind of throw a monkey wrench into folks who want to actually hire a contractor to do development. We actually have one property owner who has moved forward with purchase and installation, or they're getting ready to install a manufactured home as an accessory dwelling unit. So that'll be happening this year, at least for one person. And part of one of the programs that we want to work on that's in the housing element is to do some research and find out, especially for prefab or manufactured homes, what the sources are. Where are they? Are they available here in California? What's involved with using those sources in order to be able to allow folks to do development on their site of, ADUs, or now with the changes in state law, maybe second single family homes. So it's on the list to do. I don't have great answers for it at this point in time. Any and all suggestions are welcomed.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll be really interesting to look into. I've tried to do my own research on that, and it's complicated. So I wonder if there are any. I wonder if the League of Cities or any of our member, organizations that we're a member of might have resources like that, or if other cities. I know, we're not alone in facing this, so I'll do a little legwork on my end. Did have one more, which was about conversions of houses that are currently large homes. I guess I'm wondering how, like, a split of a Victorian or a large home into multiple units factors into this. Are we seeing any of that? Does that count? I often think about that when I look at, what's really out there in Eureka, and how much of people's homes are they really living in, and could that become multiple units? I mean, I have those same thoughts about my own home, so I know others do as well. Is that something we can explore as a means of dedicating more housing, more individual units?
Sure. So creation of any unit counts. So whatever we need to do to allow that to happen. But it's going to depend a little bit on the zoning where the site is located, but theoretically a large Victorian could probably be divided into multiple units, perhaps, if it's in a multifamily residential zone, or it could be developed into potentially an accessory dwelling unit and or a junior accessory dwelling unit if it was in a single family residential home. It could even potentially be divided and subdivided and perhaps do the second single family home route through SB9. So I think that there are the potential for a number of options to kind of divide up existing homes if that's what the property owner is interested in.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I wasn't sure how that factored in, so that's wonderful. If there's a way that we could explore, as we're looking at financing options to support people in developing ADUs, if we could do the same for conversions of large homes into multiple units. I know sometimes folks have to do some construction things, and if those loans or financing options could be available for them too, that would be wonderful.
So I could chime in on that. So council did hear use of some of the funding that we received through a grant for that purpose, and our economic development and housing staff have been working on that. One of the hiccups that they're working on now is finding a financial institution that's willing to take over the loan. We'd like to have a revolving loan source so that we kept the money in-house. We have a certain amount of money that can go to somebody to finance it up front. Then after they're done building it, they can go to a financial institution, refinance their house, take the money out for it, and have them cover the cost of that loan. And so our housing and economic development staff are in the discussions with REDEC, Redwood Regional Economic Development
Commission.
Thank you. And Coast Central Credit Union right now, and we're hoping that is successful. If that's successful, we have set aside money for that exact purpose, and that would also include for conversions, not just ADUs.
Thank you. And the existing, when you referred to council approving an existing thing, that was for the ADUs specifically, right?
Correct, but we're
Not
also...
for-
Well, no, it could be used for the conversions as well, but that funding that we used for that was for low and very low income, and that's why some of the discussions that we've had with council about a housing trust fund, that if we establish that, we could use it for moderate to above moderate conversions and ADUs as well.
Great. Yeah, I recall the thing about ADUs and financing for that, but I hadn't thought about financing for existing home renovations to meet additional housing needs. So I think it's helpful to frame it that way. And I'm thinking about it more, and just thinking about how many, what the realities of Eureka are like. There's so many big, fascinating, complex houses full of tiny little rooms, and it is a lot to think about converting them, but it's like preserving our architectural heritage at the same time. So anyway, thank you.
So I have a question, something that Natalie, I don't know if there's an answer to this, but it may be more of a pondering. Something you said was, the contractors are all busy. It's hard to find them. And then Principal Planner Getz said that means they're all working, which is great. But if they're all working and we're only getting as much done as we're getting done, and that's the capacity that our contractors can handle, how do we talk about increasing the capacity? Because if all they can, and I'm guessing what's happening is that they're doing remodels, and those remodels aren't going towards our RHNA numbers. They're making houses livable, but they're not adding new units. But I just think that there is something there about how do we increase the capacity? Is there a way, and I don't even know if I want to do it, but is there a way to incentivize building new units so that we can get that done versus just the renovation of other houses, which is not adding to the housing stock? And I'm really just thinking out loud. I'm not suggesting we do that. I'm just saying, if we're working at capacity right now and we're building as few as we are, given our timeline and trying to get stuff done, I think that's something we should think about. So that was my question, pondering. Go ahead, you can respond. I'm done.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, I wasn't necessarily speaking just of them working inside the city limits. So I think that they are working other places outside of the city limits, but still perhaps in the county too.
Which is true. So where in the county are they doing so much better than us? Anyways, that's just where my head went. I thought I would take you all on a little journey with me. I don't do that often, so. And I promise I won't start now. Does anybody else have any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah.
Councilmember Bauer.
Well, I want to take you on another journey too, because I'm concerned about us actually meeting our targets in 5 years if we don't get more contractors. And I mean, we have CR, they're developing contractors, and but I hope we can pull it off. I mean, and I guess that leads to the question I really have is, what's the repercussions if we don't meet our targets? We get punished, but I mean, I think we will, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I can't speak for the state, but obviously we're going to make a good faith effort, and we do have the inventory to do so. I think that what Mayor Seaman brought up, I think the financial incentive of SB 9 and increasing property values is going to, once that word gets out there, I think there's going to be a lot more people interested in increasing their property values. I know that I've talked to a lot of property owners who are considering that, and so I think that that's just the financial incentive in and of itself, I think will spur more development. But as far as the arena stuff, and Principal Planner Getz can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the very low and low income ones for the site specific that I think we really need to concern ourselves with and make sure that we meet those. And I think that we have the inventory to do so, and I think that we could even exceed that. And with the exemption for the government code section 37364 that allows for that allows for a little bit more mixed use. So if we can come up with financing options similar to the Earth Center, to where you can do workforce, moderate housing along with affordable housing, I think it makes it, we can achieve some of those numbers for the moderate and above moderate units as well.
Councilmember Burgell.
I just have a clarifying question with that. So we do have things in place that haven't started construction. Will those be counted as in process? Or does everything have to be built, done, people living in there to satisfy those RENA numbers?
I believe with the way it's written, they're supposed to be built and living in there.
Okay.
Obviously, there's financing problems similar to what we experienced with Danco and 7th and Myrtle. They did come around and they do have financing, and that should be going to construction actually this year. We had the hiccup with the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities grant with Link, but they're still very much behind that and wanting to get that done. I think the unique model of Servitas and with the Earth Center could hopefully provide a template for other people that won't have to rely on tax credits and some of the traditional ways of getting money for affordable housing. And I think that, Cal Poly and the potential for that can significantly increase our numbers for all levels of housing.
And actually, speaking of Cal Poly, I was at a president's advisory group meeting, and we were talking about, could we find a place for temporary workforce housing for contractors who come in from out of the area for all of these big projects. So I asked City Manager Slattery if maybe we could do a temporary thing in one of our lots. They could put RVs and we could bring in, because they're big projects that are going to be done at HSU, big housing projects, the hospital's getting ready to do stuff, and we just simply don't have enough contractors here in town. Councilmember Castellano.
Can we do comments also, or is just sorry? Can I make a comment?
We could.
Or are we opening
Oh,
up
okay.
for public comment?
So you want to do public comment now? Y'all
Okay.
ready for that? Okay. Is there anybody who wants to make a comment on this item? All right. Seeing none, we can make comments here.
Great. Let's see. Actually, oh darn, I have questions too. Okay, but I do think there's an opportunity with the REAP funding to potentially, for some of the marketing things, like I'm fairly certain that we could partner with some other jurisdictions and hire a marketing person to do some of that housing related marketing. Just as, you know, if I was just thinking about it when we were talking about staffing being challenging, that may at least help kind of give a boost to implementing that part of it. And then I was just curious if, you know, I know I saw in this that there's, and I thought that was cool, that there's something for houses that have received demo permits, but is there any accounting for other housing that's been lost either to being boarded up, or I'm just kind of curious, like, are we losing as much housing as we're gaining, or like how are we kind of faring in relationship to kind of you know, just because we do have it, to Mayor Seaman's point, you know, so much housing that's, you know, in kind of rough shape here and there.
So we do only track the demolition where the entire residence or the entire house itself is demolished, so that we actually lose the ability to allow somebody to live there. With a vacant and boarded residential structure, there's the possibility certainly of rehabilitation, maybe, you know, dividing it up into multiple units. Those kinds of things could certainly be an option, but in general, the structure itself is still there, still has the ability to be rehabbed. So we don't count that as a loss.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
I will say that we have had a lot of successes with some of those that were vacant and boarded. The property on 8th Street between 8th and 9th has got permits and going to be actually adding more units to that. And then, of course, the 14th Street property at the end of 14th Street has a lot of units, and that was converted. And some of the bigger ones we've had more successes with lately.
Great. And then finally, I guess I'm just still, I think a lot of this work with RENA ties and our policies tie into us potentially becoming a pro-housing city, which maybe could help get more houses built. So I guess I just want to keep advocating for working toward that as well.
And that's on not only Principal Planner KG and Kenyon's desk, but also on our housing and economic development people's desk. So they are working on that designation.
Councilmember Burgell.
I just am curious. I have a clarification. Where on 14th are you talking about? Are you talking about 14th and C?
And Harris?
The old detox? Where are you talking about?
The very end of California on Harris?
You said
okay,
14th
that's not
Street.
14th Street.
Oh, I'm sorry, California.
I was actually going to ask that at the break.
My
I was going
bad.
to say, what's going on with California?
Yeah.
So,
Our city attorney is giving me grief even. She's only been here for a month.
okay, excellent. Councilmember Arroyo.
Can you remind me, so I know that the tiny house rules have changed in the building code, and now there are more flexible provisions to allow those to be, you know, to have different building requirements. But can you remind me how the tiny houses fit in and what the requirements are for a tiny house to count as a unit?
I believe the minimum is 150 square feet for it to count as a unit. We have heard recently, however, that either the city or county of Sacramento, and I'm sorry, I can't remember which, has adopted an ordinance for tiny houses on wheels. And that is one of the things that's in the housing element for us to look into. So we are actually in the process of contacting Sacramento to get information from them about what they did and how they did it. Our understanding was that the state law actually had to change in order to be able to do that, but with all the other things, that's too on our list to check it out and see what we can do as far as implementing those here.
Okay, thank you. And so, I mean, I assume if it could be a tiny house on wheels, that it could also be like an Airstream or like whatever else had kind of met those same requirements. So that's kind of poses some interesting questions, I guess, for me about, you know, we so badly need the housing, but I guess I have questions about earthquake safety and things like that. But it sounds like that info is coming, and I really appreciate all the hard work you do. I know it's a lot that's on your plate for this, and just want to say, yeah, just express appreciation and say that, for those watching and those in the chambers, that we clearly need to do more to incentivize this and to take the reins and require that housing be built in our city. So that's I think is reflected by this council's actions. But I just want, hope that the community can see the great need that is upon us. And as the mayor mentioned, this doesn't even reflect some of the changes with Cal Poly and other community needs. So anyway, thanks for all your hard work on this.
Any other comments on this item from council? If not, we'll receive this report. And I know we're almost done, but I still will take a short break because I'm sure everybody needs, and then we'll be fresh when we come back in 5 minutes.
I was about ready to climb over and I thought better of it. It was great because it was like 2 hours. It was nice. Yeah. Really happy. That was beautiful. He was so stoked.
You get there faster, but I kind of like stretching my legs every 2 hours, so it works. It's okay.
Oh, he totally did. Like,
You're just shortening my deck.
It's great because we were all together in that moment. All right.
Welcome back. And now we are going to hear from Eddie Alexander for our last report of the evening, but I am excited to hear it. So, Jennifer,
well,
let's hear.
Council, thank you so much for having me in. I'm Jennifer Eddy with Eddie Alexander, and I want to provide an update on the tourism marketing efforts for the city of Eureka. I'm pleased to be here on the day that we're celebrating our Business of the Year and Artist.
Is your mic on? I'm just, okay. Just want to make sure.
And our Artist of the Year, because we also have some good news to celebrate. So I think it's all in the same vein. So I'd like to share with you tonight. So almost, well, I guess 2.5 years ago, Eddie Alexander started working with the city of Eureka after responding to a public procurement process where the city said they were looking for support in 3 main areas: city-centric branding, tourism marketing, and quality of life promotion. So we've been working diligently on these 3 things. The first year was really focused on building a brand for the city, listening to the community about what stories we wanted to tell and how we wanted to position, and then rolling that out. Obviously, COVID derailed some things in 2020 and into 2021, but we've been working diligently on each of these efforts, and today I have some stats to share with you to show that the efforts are really working, and we're pretty excited about it. So if you'll bear with me on a few charts here, you've heard me talk about the power of data before. We use 2 primary methods to capture and measure impact. The first is we're looking at cell phone data, aggregate cell phone data within the city of cell phones that don't live in the city, don't work in the city. So if the home device, the most often daytime or nighttime location of a phone is outside the area and it comes into the area, then we can identify that that represents a traveler, and we can tell a lot about where they go in the city, what they do, and where there are opportunities to improve our opportunities to move people around, to stay longer, and hopefully spend more of their wonderful out-of-town money here investing in our community. So this is the first area that we'll look at, and there's some data here that comes from the cell phone records. There's also this year some data from STR, which are STAR reports. This is an industry trend tracking report system that looks at hotel occupancy data. So it looks at how long people are staying and how how they are moving around the community in terms of what their lodging preferences are. So those are the 2 main places, and then we're also looking at TOT tax revenue and restaurant tax revenue, as well as indicators of how the tourism community and quality of life scores are hopefully going up in the community. So this is the first one. Transient occupancy tax was up almost $1 million from 2019 to 2021, 130%, and up about $954,917 from 2020 to 2021. So a little bit of a greater steep since last year, since, COVID made us dip further than we wanted to be. But again, we've been maintaining a bounce back that is much improved over other areas that have also dealt with COVID and are struggling to get their tourism industry back. And this is held pretty consistent. So this is the same data, but broken up the 3 years quarter by quarter. So you can see the first quarter of the year, 3 numbers together, second quarter of the year, 3 numbers together for each year, and so on. So you can look at March or spring of 2020, you see a significant dip, everyone locked down. That's our lowest one. But with the exception of that anomaly in Q1 and Q2 of 2020, we've really been trending up despite the negative downward pressure of COVID. So that's a good thing for the local economy. The average length of stay is something we talked about when we came in 2019. This is the biggest opportunity for improving economic impact using tourism. So the city is spending a certain amount to get people here. This is a fairly remote location when measured from the feeder markets that we know your visitors are coming from. So if you can get them to stay half a day longer, they're buying exponentially more meals, they're paying more taxes, they're exploring more of what the city has to offer. So this is something we wanted to kind of drive up. So the same spend to get the same amount of people here, but get them to stay longer and spend a bit more. That is improving in a pretty significant way. When you're talking about a large population of people, you're not expecting to move the average from, 1 day to 6 days, but an improvement of 2.25 to almost 2.45 is a pretty significant move over 2.5 years. So we're really pleased to see this momentum going in the right direction. When you look at the impact on the local hotel industry, there's 3 main stats that drive KPIs that drive that industry: occupancy, average daily rate, and RevPAR, which is revenue per available room. This is looking at the US and California trends versus the city of Eureka trends. So everybody's losing money pretty exponentially right now in the tourism industry, but Eureka's not. We're doing pretty well, and we're pretty pleased about that. This might be the most fun report I've gotten to give in a long time. All right. So another thing we talked about the last time we presented was our feeder markets. So we went out and we looked at where people actually coming from. And what you'll see here is people are still coming from the same places, but we're doing a better job getting people coming from more places. So that's a good thing. It's lifted certainly by the impact of the opening of the Redwood Skywalk. We've gotten lots of attention from that, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. But that has given us more markets that are pouring more people in. That's building awareness for the community, and that's giving us sort of seeds of recognition that we can then grow into larger feeder markets over time. So you'll see that some of the top ones went down a little bit. It's not actually that fewer people are coming. It's just as a percentage of the whole, it's going down. Similarly, one of the things we talked about doing is when people come into the city, what we found when we first did this research in, 2020 was the first time we ran the cell phone aggregate data. We looked at where people were going in the city, and almost everyone went to downtown, but they weren't going anywhere else. Everything else was just about under 10%. So one of the things we wanted to make a concerted effort to do was to move people around the city more effectively. And so we've started increasing the amount of cross promotion in different locations around the city. We've been working with some of the benefit we've gotten from the Redwood Skywalk opening at the Sequoia Park Zoo to move people around. We also identified that a lot of people who were from out of town were going over to Woodley Island just to check out the statue and see the boats. And so that became an opportunity that we could then move people around further from there. So what you're seeing here is just an increase in those smaller numbers. They're still small compared to downtown, but we're doing a better job of moving people around. So again, trending in the right direction. This is showing us a similar thing from a different angle, but this is the percent of the total of people that go to each location. So it doesn't add up to 100% because one person can go to multiple locations while they're here. But if you can see in 2019, everybody was going to the downtown. A lot of people were going to the waterfront trail, and then it really dropped off pretty steeply. Now your first 5 or 6 assets are getting visited by a larger majority of the people who are coming into town. So good news, not done yet, but good news in terms of creating more of a broad experience for people who are coming into Eureka. Okay, so in terms of actual stats, the Visit Eureka website launched right after the brand launched in June of 2020 or May of 2020. And since we launched the new website, users are up 573% year over year. Total visitors are up 632%. So you can come as one multiple times, but if you're only going to be counted as a user once, total visits are up as well. I could count twice in that way of looking at it. Page views are up 457%. So when someone comes, how many pages they go. So just getting tremendous traffic, good impact. People are looking at what we have to offer and they're using that to find our local businesses, which is fabulous. We've also been working on some placemaking efforts. It's not just about bringing tourists in. It's also about making sure that this is a place where locals are really happy and proud to live and to work and to play and to invite others to come enjoy. And so we've been working with a number of different organizations, city staff and others to support some of these efforts to pull the new brand throughout the city into different experiential offerings. So we've updated the branded wall in the city of Eureka's visitor center, and also offered branded materials and merchandise for sale, and that seems to be moving pretty well with visitors who are coming to the area. We've designed light pole banners and holiday versions of the light pole banners that say City of Eureka as you're driving into town, and there's some discussions underway about ways we can expand that program out a little bit further as well. We're working on a new Visit Eureka map that is prepped for a spring release. It's imminent, but we're looking forward to being able to use that to share more of the assets and more ways to move people around the city. And then continued beautification and wayfinding. And we've been able to partner with a number of organizations who are really the ones doing the hard work, developing new assets, telling stories that haven't been told before. We had an opportunity to work on a grant-funded project to improve the waterfront trail signage. We got to work with the Eureka Chinatown project on implementing some wayfinding adjacent signage that told some stories in an interpretive way here in the community. And we've got to work on a few other projects as well, traffic safety and some other things. So we're really proud of that. Then there's been a number of other community collaborations. So we've been filming and producing a number of different videos for the city. This is helping obviously get the word out about different cool things that are going on in the community, but it is also helping improve the digital reputation of the city. The assets that you find when you search the City of Eureka are now much more positive, universally so. And so we're really pleased about that. One of the projects that we're really proud to have gotten to work on was a video about the sunset twice on the people that day, and the dedication ceremony that the city held when that mural was released during the festival, the Mural Street Art Festival this past August. There were 36 community conversations filmed this year, so lots of videos featuring lots of local businesses, artists, first responders, people who are just doing amazing things in the community, and they're getting good traction online when they first launch, and they're continuing to get shared over time. And I think that's just all building good community interest and exposure and relationships, and that seems to be going very well. In December, we were able to hold a strategic planning workshop with city leadership. We had our entire team come out for a week-long retreat, which is something we do as a company every year, but we were able to do it here, and that gave us an opportunity to meet with city leadership and really brainstorm about ways we can support some of the priorities that council has outlined. And just as a kind of a gut check in the first part of our contract, making sure that we're aligned to the things that you guys are looking for. So that spurred a number of ideas and incentives or opportunities that we're going to talk to you about in a second. And then we had a chance to work with the mayor and the Traffic Safety Advisory Council on the traffic safety campaign that you are seeing around the community as well in Eureka and beyond. On Friday, we are celebrating today's launch of the new Craftsman TV show on the Magnolia Network, which is offered through Discovery Plus. And we've been able to collaborate with a number of different organizations to make this a free event for the public. It is now sold out. We had 400 available seats, but we were able to rent the theater and make this a free celebration of a community icon who's just doing something really cool, not only for his business and his storytelling, but also this is a show that is highlighting what is fabulous about this community. The architecture, the history, the people, the stories, the connections. It's just really, really been fun to be a small part of it. So this is a red carpet event. It'll be held on Friday at 6 p.m. The doors actually open at 5, so people have a chance to network. The pilot episode, which has been out for a while for those who have a Discovery Plus subscription, will be shown first. There'll be an intermission. Then the first episode that is actually launching today for Discovery Plus subscribers will be shown right after, and then there'll be a Q&A with Eric that he'll get to tell some of the stories about why he did this and what he hopes to get out of it, and then some behind the scenes stuff about his experiences actually filming with his family. So we're really looking forward to this, and we are really thankful for the support we've gotten from the Hollenbecks and their business and their nonprofit, but also city staff and the Film Commission and the Eureka Theater group as well. It's just been a wonderful project. Everybody's been great to work with, and it's come together quite quickly, so we're proud of that. All right, we had a chance to work with SWAN and the Economic Development Department within the city of Eureka to support their presence at the Regional Economic Summit. That included a virtual branded City of Eureka booth, a new economic development brochure, and then a video highlighting the city and all that the city has accomplished in the last couple of years in this regard. So that was a nice opportunity to use the brand to tell a story in a different way, a different kind of story, rather than tourism, but really about business and business success and resources. We've also been running digital advertising. So I think in the last session, I presented to you some of the ads that had been running that we were testing last summer. That program is really now in full effect, and we have 2 ad campaigns running with 3 segments each. So we have a Redwood Skywalk campaign that's running and really leveraging the new asset to its full extent, and we have a City of Eureka campaign. So this is the City of Eureka campaign. Within this, we have a campaign that's targeting outdoor recreation and the people who love outdoor recreation. We have an arts and culture campaign, and we have a history and architecture campaign running. So you'll see kind of some of the creative from each of those here. Each month, we're averaging 2.7 million impressions. So we are getting the word out about how great Eureka is to visit, and we're averaging just under 8,000 clicks per month, which means people are coming back to our website directly from the ads. Our arts and culture and architecture ads are continuing to drive the most traffic to the website, and I think that is a really good sign that it's reinforcing the brand positioning that we are the arts and culture center for the region, and we want people to come here to be able to do all the things that we have to do, that we have to offer. So as we start to hopefully come out of this pandemic and people can experience more things with more people around them, we really want to lean into the offerings and the assets that the city has to offer. And I was really excited to hear about the Rhododendron Parade and some of the other things that are happening here tonight. The average cost per click is also starting to come down. So that's how much we have to spend to be able to reach those 2.7 million people each month. Right as people started traveling again, everybody started advertising again, and it's an auction model. So those digital ads got much more expensive. That's now coming down and leveling off a bit. So we think we're returning to some normalcy there in that ad market. Similarly, our Redwood Skywalk digital advertising is also running. So this is in addition to what we're doing to promote the zoo itself. We're trying to leverage the brand awareness that's been built around the new Redwood Skywalk asset. The digital ad campaign began in October. So as the traffic from the summer kind of media blitz started to die down, we started paid advertising as well. We're getting just under 5 million impressions monthly for this campaign, and about 21,000, almost 22,000 clicks to the Redwood Skywalk.com website each month. More than 275,000 people have watched the new promotional video, and 255,000 as a direct result of the digital ad campaign that's been running. The retiree-focused ads are the ones that are doing the best right now, and this changes kind of from month to month, but the retiree segment of our targeting we're just really appealing to them, and I think everybody should come here, but definitely retirees too. Also, the peace and tranquility ads have also driven the most traffic to the website overall, which is a nice complement to some of the things that we have to do here and some of the businesses that are going to be trying to really recover from the impact of COVID. So some of the museums, some of the theaters, this is a target demographic that we really want to come back so that we can support our local artists. So as we're thinking about ways to encourage more things to come back into the community, obviously we want to boost and amplify all of the events that have always made Eureka special. But we also had this idea for another kind of event at another kind of scale that could help us extend the summer tourism season into the fall shoulder season, and really take advantage of Humboldt's reputation as an outdoor, nirvana. I mean, it's amazing. So the idea here is that we would hold a festival with national brands and local organizations and nonprofits that would celebrate all the great things you can do in the great outdoors. So this is modeled after some festivals that take place in other parts of the country, but ironically not here in Northern California anywhere. So this is something that we can really own. And it's a free festival for the community. It's something everybody can come out and try things that they maybe would have never tried before. Maybe watch a demo, listen to a presentation that they wouldn't have been exposed to before, try stand-up paddleboarding, try climbing a rock wall for the first time, bring their dogs, just have a great time as a community. And our vision for this is that it would be paid for by sponsorships from out-of-town companies, national outdoor recreation brands who want to be affiliated with the beauty of this region. So it would be an economic driver for the community as well. So we presented this idea to the city leadership team back in December, and there was some initial interest, and we said, yeah, we should look into how to do this. I wonder if there's any grants available. And lo and behold, a couple weeks ago, Donna and the community services team said, hey, will this grant application do? And there was this fabulous opportunity for the Explore the Coast grant with the California Coastal Conservancy. So we quickly put a grant application together, and another amazing opportunity to partner with the community services team. It was a monumental lift, but we were able to submit a grant application with support, letters of support from all of these community organizations who have all said they want to see us make this happen. They want to be involved in the planning, and that if we can do it, they want to be there. They want to be part of it. So we're really, really excited to have College of the Redwoods, Cal Poly Humboldt, the California Outdoor Recreation Partnership has offered to help connect us to many of the marketers at the national brands that we want to have advertise here. And we are just really, really excited to hear back about the grant and to start the planning process and hopefully be able to bring something new and exciting to the region to supplement all of the amazing things that have anchored the community for so long. So hopefully this will get some momentum. We'll keep you posted as we hear back on next steps. And then this is just a little bit more about how this festival would work. There's kind of 4 categories of events: see activities, learn activities, play activities, and challenge activities. The see activities are very low threshold. Anybody can walk up, ADA accessible. You can get to learn about something or get exposed to something you wouldn't have otherwise, but without having to actually get involved. It's a very low risk, easy entry way to expose yourself to something new. Learn activities are a little more hands-on, but educational in nature. Play activities are very hands-on. Maybe you try slacklining for the first time, or a stand-up paddleboard, or maybe you demo a kayak, that sort of thing. And then challenge activities are the competitions. So maybe there's a race, or maybe there's a scavenger hunt, or other things where you can compete with other people or teams. So we're excited to bring this to life. We have sort of the framework, but the details of what this would look like are really going to be developed in partnership with this community and what these organizations here that want to partner with us to plan it want to see happen. So we have lots of examples of what's worked in other communities for people to consider, but ultimately what gets offered will be based on what each organization wants to bring to the community celebration. So also this year we've been working on earned media. Obviously the Redwood Skywalk provided an amazing opportunity to get some attention and some spotlight shown on the city of Eureka, but these stats are pretty incredible, and I want to take a minute to highlight them. So over the last year, over 200 pieces of news coverage with an estimated 3.73 million online views alone, and 108,000 social shares were written or produced about the city of Eureka, many of them about the Skywalk, in 11 different countries and 6 languages. So how cool is that? The whole world is looking at how awesome Eureka is right now. The high-profile placements were bountiful, but they included stories in the New York Times, in Condé Nast Traveler Spain, Lonely Planet, National Geographic, and right now, the current cover of Sonoma magazine. So we're pretty excited about that. I'll pass these around. We picked these up on our way in. We're very excited. They just hit the press. We've had more than 400 radio interviews air about the city of Eureka, and some of those were syndicated. So one story ran in many, many different places. Others were individual stories and in niche publications. The total earned media value for all of this media was in excess of $4 million. So that means if we had gone out and bought that ad space, we would have had to pay $4 million for the amount of free coverage that we got out of that. We also worked with more than 200 media outlets and 2,000 freelance travel writers, bloggers, and influencers to tell stories about Eureka. So not all of them have written about us yet, but we are not going to stop until they do. And so we're just shining a light on what all is going on here and what makes this place special. And then we're regularly pursuing opportunities as they arise. So we're asking the community to let us know if there are things that are happening that we can help amplify and bring out, either through Visit Eureka website page, social media handles, or through direct outreach to media partners. We're also working with Visit California to leverage their PR arm and engine to tell these stories through other channels as well, where there are better relationships than we can offer directly. So as we think about 2022, we're working to continue to build positive place affiliation with both locals and prospective visitors. We're working hard to kind of cross-promote assets. So if somebody comes in for the Redwood Skywalk, we want them to be able to stay and do lots of other things while they're here. We are looking at quality of life and placemaking initiatives. How can we help support the community in ways that are maybe a little less traditional for a tourism organization, but support the greater vision for what the community wants to be. We're looking at some new event development like we talked about, and some anchor event promotion. As these different events come back, we want to make sure that they are getting added lift from the Visit Eureka channels that are now getting more and more audience attention. We're continuing to work on media relations, leveraging the new Skywalk attention to diversify media coverage about the region, and looking for opportunities to tell kind of richer, more community-wide stories. So things like the National Geographic Marble story came out of a conversation that started at the launch of at the Redwood Skywalk grand opening. So we're really pleased that that was then helping to seed some of these other opportunities for coverage. We're continuing to work on community partnerships, promotion, and engagement. It's not about what Eddie Alexander is doing for the city. It's really about what we can offer to help the great things that the community is doing get the attention they deserve. And then we're continuing to pay close attention to the digital maturation of the city's reputation. So how can we make sure more people find us for free through search engine optimization? And how can we make sure that when they are looking at or thinking about Eureka, that they're hearing the positive things and not just things that might be old or outdated or have caused historic heartburn. So we are, that's kind of what we're focused on. And like I said, I'm really pleased to be able to give such a positive report after a couple of years that have been a little bit turbulent, to say the least. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are, and if that's allowed, but thank you for the opportunity to present today.
It is absolutely allowed. So do we have any questions?
I have one more thing, a very
okay.
important thing. Several of the projects that we worked on this past year have been recognized by some outside organizations. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. First was Eddie Alexander is headquartered in Virginia. So we are members of the Public Relations Society of America in the Blue Ridge chapter. And there were 2 awards given for City of Eureka projects based on some of the work that we had done last year. So there was a critical incident community briefing done in July of 2020 that received a silver award, and then a gold award for the Redwood Skywalk grand opening. But perhaps more exciting, every 2 years, Visit California offers a series of awards for destination marketing and tourism marketing across the state. These are a big deal. Many nationally recognized and internationally recognized brands compete in them. And this year we submitted both the brand identity that we had developed for the city of Eureka back in 2020, and also the Redwood Skywalk grand opening campaign. And we were told that we were a finalist in both, and we went down to San Francisco last month, and we were very pleased to come home with a trophy that we'd like to present to you all today. So if my team will bring it up. This is the biggest, craziest trophy you'll ever see, so you really should experience it for yourself. But while we did not win Best Destination Brand Identity, we lost to North Tahoe. But we did win Best Public Relations Campaign for the last 2 years for the state of California, and they gave us this incredible Poppy Award that we are pleased to present to you guys. We hope you can keep it in City Hall. So I'll pass it around.
I think they call that burying the lead.
Totally.
You're like, I'm done.
But lots,
Oh,
lots of good stuff. One more thing. But I'm happy to answer any questions for real this time.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? And then I cannot see the council on Zoom. So Natalie or Councilmember
I have a
Arroyo.
question, Mayor.
Sure.
Is that Councilmember Moulton? Okay.
That's me.
Hello.
Councilmember Arroyo also has her hand raised.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for that lovely report, and of course all the wonderful work that you're doing. Can we get that as a PDF, please?
Absolutely,
Some
you
kind
can.
of compression problem. I couldn't read any of the actual letters or numbers from where I'm sitting.
Yes,
But I'd be
absolutely. We
delighted-
can forward that over to you tonight.
Okay, great. So you covered it well. I just love to dig into details.
Sure.
And then you mentioned promoting or creating new events, but also promoting the anchor events. Can you give me an example of an anchor event for Eureka?
Yes. So one of the things we've been paying close attention to over the last couple of years are the events that people say are what make Eureka Eureka. So the kinetic sculpture race, the Humboldt Marble Weekend, the Rhododendron Parade, and so many others. Coast Guard Days. All these things that are special to the community are also assets that other people would like to enjoy. So we want to make sure that we're amplifying them so that locals know that they're happening and can participate in any of the activities that are related, and also so that people who are coming in from out of town can celebrate sort of the culture of the community as well as the physical and natural assets that are here. So we have some identified with budget behind them that are kind of the key anchors that I just listed, and a few others as well. And then we have a small bucket of funds set aside to help promote other community events that either maybe are smaller in nature, weren't on our list, or maybe haven't even been developed yet. So we want to make sure that we're really lifting up things that are authentic and part of the community. So that's part of our push moving forward.
Lovely, thank you. I really just wanted to make sure you had kinetics on your list because I can think of no more uniquely Humboldt thing.
It's a pretty
or
cool
uniquely
Humboldt thing.
Eurekan thing.
Yes,
that,
and definitely something people
ties
want to
in-
visit.
Yes, that's something that ties in our arts and culture as well as the beautiful bay and like so much great stuff. So
yes,
that's
indeed,
all.
on the list.
For the glory.
Councilmember Arroyo. Or should
Thank
I
you.
say Queen Gma
I was
or-
also going to mention kinetics, so I'm glad that my fellow Rutabaga Queen and I were on the same page with that. So I was curious when you were showing, and I also couldn't see some of the finer details, so I'm excited to review this later too. But I couldn't, or I was curious about whether we have a sense of the Airbnb or vacation rental occupancy versus hotels. And I'm curious how that influences people's experience, but it's a little bit hard to unpack from where I sit. So I know I could dig in and look at the reviews and stuff like that, but there's got to be a better way. So I'm curious what you think.
Yes. So I know that that's a project that the city has been working on in terms of archiving what assets are here and figuring out how they want to handle those in terms of tax revenue. So I'm going to turn that over to Miles and see if he wants to say anything about it, and then I can add broader color if that's helpful.
Yeah, from not much to say from a marketing standpoint, but yes, we brought to you guys the research that we've been doing to document all of the different B&Bs and VRBOs that we have. And so we'll be coming back with more information. It won't necessarily be related to, marketing. But once we start getting the TOTs from there, I think that we could do some analysis related to that once everybody's up and running.
And it's, thank you, Mr. Slattery. And to kind of add some color to that, I think we're thinking a lot about how do you shape the experience for different kinds of travelers. So it's travelers that come to hotels who may be able to get an asset like a Redwood Skywalk branded key card from the hotel that they choose to stay at, or a banner stand in the lobby that helps promote some of the assets that we have in town. But we're also thinking about the digital assets that are available through Visit Eureka, the ways we can remarket or cross-market experiences via digital devices to those folks. And then we're also thinking about people that are coming into town and staying with someone they know or love, family members that are visiting someone who lives here, parents of Humboldt State Cal Poly, Humboldt, students or alumni that that might be having a different kinds of experience, and how can we kind of pull them into these itineraries that don't just say, hey, here are all the things we can do, but sort of identify what kind of traveler they are and what kind of experiences they might want, and feed them to them on a regular basis so that they want to stay longer and spend more and enjoy the community and have a good impact along the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking about it in the context of deciding, how we're going to regulate vacation rentals moving forward, and how many we'll allow. And, I know we've had some prior conversations about that, but moving forward, I guess I'm thinking more of not so much about how many we have and what the revenue generated from them is and how to collect that revenue appropriately, but more, how are people traveling these days, and how are those experiences different for people? So, that'd be something I would enjoy hearing more about in the future, as you're able. I also was curious about, you mentioned Coast Guard Days, and I have spent some time in the last couple of years in some of New London, which was like the first Coast Guard city. And I know there are other Coast Guard cities that really market the heck out of the fact that they're a Coast Guard city, and that's like a part of their identity. And I know it's part of ours too, but I do wonder how or whether you think that could be a bigger, just a bigger point of pride, and how we might communicate that.
I certainly do, but as somebody who lives outside the community, it's really not up to me. But I think that it is a great opportunity to leverage an asset that already exists, that has been created by the community for the community, and get some extra benefit out of it. So we want to support that in whatever ways make sense, certainly amplifying what's already happening, helping support or project manage anything that needs additional resources to make it into that kind of event. But I think it starts with relationship building and making sure that the right people know that these resources are available. So I hope that I could ask each of you to help connect me to folks that that might benefit from our involvement, and where it makes sense, we're happy to step in and provide support. Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Castellano.
Thank you for your thorough report. I find it pretty fascinating. I imagine you're aware of the cultural districts in California, and okay, perfect. And just that there's potential funding for them in the state budget. Great. Just wanted to make sure that was on your radar. Yes. For the outdoor festival, have you talked with the Humboldt Kiters?
We have identified them on a list of people to talk to. We have a list of about 200 different organizations that we are reaching out to in a phased process to try and get them involved. But we are hoping that this grant funding will come through in the fall, and that we could start planning an October 2023 event. But we're in the very early stages. So I can confirm on a list, because I'm super geeking out about getting to watch them, but they have not been contacted to my knowledge about the event yet. We do have kind of a vision deck that I will send along to council along with this deck, that just has some more pictures and kind of paints a little bit more detail about what the vision is and the framework is for it. And then I can share with you the Excel document that sort of has the organizations that we've identified that we need to talk to so far, and maybe you have suggestions for other people we should connect with as well. But we're working with community services to think through that and make sure that it's something that's community driven. But it does seem like a huge opportunity to sort of own outdoor recreation as a asset for the city, when the county has so many places to go and do these things, but the city has the people, and it has the culture, and it has the opportunity to bring the brands in and house them and celebrate them. So we want to take advantage of our unique positioning and really amplify that.
Yeah, it would be nice to see kind of there are kind of there's a segment of like arts and cultural related outdoor things that would be nice to see tied in with that, with the more like physical kinds of,
Absolutely.
Anyway, not that bike riding isn't a cultural experience.
in other communities, there are things like film festivals that are part of it. Performance art is part of it. And some of the challenge events actually become fundraisers for nonprofits that maybe have nothing to do with outdoor recreation. So in one particular event, there's a Family Promise is a nonprofit within the umbrella of the larger event. They hold a children's superhero race, and all the children dress up as superheroes, and it's, they bust through cardboard walls made of, foam and things like that, but the whole community comes out to watch, and there's a small entrance fee to participate in that, and that allows that organization to fundraise in a way that is much bigger than they would be able to do on their own, but under the umbrella of this larger event. So our vision is that many of the activities would fit into these different funnels, but they would be organized and sort of held under the broader umbrella of the event. And then the city could support and promote and really amplify this event to make sure lots of people come out and participate in it. So the idea is that it would be kind of community driven and then amplified and supported with resources that couldn't be allotted to every individual event that every person wanted to put on. So it's all about sort of alignment and coordination is the goal.
And then while bicycle riding is on my mind, I feel, many of our meetings, right, that better transit, healthier transit practices are necessary for a variety of reasons. And, there continues to be, I think, a real kind of culture of opinion about who rides bicycles and when, and around some of these best practices, right? And one of the things I remember when we were first when we first hired you, was this changing how people who live in Eureka feel about Eureka, or that kind of marketing. I guess I'm just curious, have we talked, has that been part of the conversation? This, how do we also just promote different kinds of transit practices and things like that? Is that
so I would say
on the radar?
Transit practices directly and promoting biking to work and things like that have not been on Eddie Alexander's priority list, although I know that the city's talking about them and they're talking with us about the initiatives they're doing there. But thinking about the way that citizens view their own community and find value not only in living here, but also in helping to invest in bringing tourists in and seeing the connections between those things is very much on our mind. And it's all interconnected with the digital reputation management too. One of the best places we can measure that is not by asking people, but by watching what they're saying when maybe they don't know that we're going through and counting how many negative comments versus how many positive comments. And we are seeing a dramatic decrease in the amount of negativity that's being shared on social media and things like that. So that feels very positive, but it's anecdotal at this point. We also did a original brand survey, and we looked at Net Promoter Score, which was a simple question about how likely are you to invite somebody that to come visit your town. Would you recommend it to someone? And there are different, based on the scores that people give, there's different calculations that you can measure the overall community Net Promoter Score. So one of the things we would like to do coming out of the pandemic is to repeat that survey, especially with regards to that Net Promoter Pulse component, and see if we're making movement there. But it didn't make sense to do that during the pandemic, and it probably will take a little bit more time before it makes sense to do that again. But our hope is that we're being able to provide measurable improvement in how citizens feel about the community. And it's partially about the beautification efforts and the tourism efforts and all of that, but it's really a broader picture of what's going on in the community. People feel engaged and supported in those ways. So I hope to have more measurements for you in the future, but I don't have hard data at the moment.
And I was going to say, I'd just like to take this moment. It's 9:30, so we need to extend the meeting if we want to continue this conversation.
I move we extend the meeting till 10.
Okay.
Not a minute later. No,
it's fine.
I'll second that.
Okay. We could end before 10. That's not, that's an end thing. So, alrighty. All in favor? We got a bunch of thumbs up. Alrighty. Now go ahead and finish your question. Well, I did. That was not my way to rush you. It was true. I just always get interrupted, and people are like, "You have to stop the meeting." So I wanted you to know I was paying attention.
Yeah. No. There's just something I want to but I think I just need to think about it more. I guess just there's this relationship, I think, with go slow and watch the road, that kind of traffic safety stuff, but also with sort of not the like warning aspect, but the like promoting the wonder and kind of magic of being a pedestrian or, being on a bike, that I feel like might actually also help with the traffic safety stuff.
I know that that's something that the Traffic Safety Committee was talking a lot about when we were kind of in the brainstorming, and they were really leading the strategy on that. We were just kind of brought in to help with the creative. But I know that there was a lot of sensitivity to making sure that it wasn't sort of one side versus the other side in terms of ways that you commute or you move around the community, but that everybody can be all of those things. So I think there's probably still more work to be done there, and we're, again, happy to support in any of the ways that our skills might be useful. But I agree. When I come to visit, I walk everywhere, and I love every minute of it. So I think there's a way to experience the community that feels different depending on your mode of transportation.
And just for your information, May is Bike Awareness Month, so we can at least do some social networking posts.
We absolutely can.
Councilmember Burgell.
So just really quick, I'm curious about the day, this big day that you're creating, which is super
3 days.
exciting. 3 days. I saw some of it earlier in the week. But have we reached out? It'd be great to have some tribal input as well. And even if it's just, showcasing ceremonial dance or something of that nature, but just really being inclusive with that.
Yes, we have reached out to several of the area tribes and started conversations and have asked for meetings so that we can brainstorm a bit more about that. And yes, that's exactly what we're hoping is that this would provide a platform that would allow them to kind of envision how they want that experience to be for people who come in and for their own communities as well. So very much on our mind. In fact, it was a requirement of this particular grant that got submitted last week, the grant application, that we are reaching out to specific communities, and tribal communities were part of it, low-income communities, communities of color, or organizations that foster children, groups that maybe historically don't have the same opportunities to learn or experience the great outdoors and all the ways you can experience it. So Eureka really has an opportunity, I think, to be an on-ramp for a lot of people into all the amazing things that the nature in this area has to offer. So so far it's a lot of big ideas, but we're hoping to start to use that framework to put some meat on the bone, as they say.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments, thoughts, questions?
I really enjoyed your report. I love the positivity and all the great things that are happening in our community. And I'm really thankful that you're a part of our team.
Oh, thank you.
It was a very nice way to sandwich the meeting. As long as Miles can keep the good news going when we move on to him.
No pressure.
Don't bring us down.
Thank you
Okay,
all. I'll step back,
you.
but of course you can email me with any questions after, and I'll follow up with the slides.
All righty, thanks. All right, so we are now moving on to the city manager's report. And I
Do we have
believe
to
you
take
have good
public?
news. Oh. Is there do we have any public comment on that item? Seeing none, I think we're okay.
I thought Bob Gilbert was going to act like a member of the public, but he's actually an employee of Eddie Alexander. So, city manager report tonight. I just want to give a quick update. I know that I have relayed this information to council, but I think it's good for the public to know because it didn't get much media coverage. Approximately 3 months ago, Governor Newsom put out a call for proposals for he had made available $50 million in grant funding to take community members experiencing homelessness in encampments and house them. And the city applied for $1.6 million to support Betty's Trailers on Hillficker. And we were luckily awarded. We were one of 19 communities in the whole state that were awarded $1.6 million. We can now afford to purchase new trailers for the development, as well as some other things. And I just want to go over the budget really quickly about what this funding will go towards. 1.2 million of that will be going towards the modular housing, which will include 7,200 square feet of of housing for individuals, obviously housing those 50 individuals. It will also include $100,000 of emergency health services, both medical and mental health services for outpatient services. Also provide money for a van to provide transportation services for the community members staying there to get to services. I will also pay for $60,000 to put in the water main service, as well as $100,000 for the wastewater service to the site. It will also allow for $50,000 for fencing the property, and then what's really nice is $100,000 to go towards kitchen and laundry and furnishings for the development. So I want to thank our Uplift staff in putting this together in such a short period of time and getting this done. We'll be coming back to council with a resolution defining who's going to be administering the grant sometime soon. But we look forward to working with Betty and getting some more, this will be considered transitional housing for individuals. So that's all I have, and I look forward to the council reports.
Congratulations. It's a great, wonderful news. This is a really nice meeting, you guys. So now it is time for council reports, and I'm going to start with Leslie, who's way off. Hello.
Hello, Council. No, okay, sorry. Continuing to be busy doing council-related activities. Continuing to host the ongoing housing group through the Community Economic Resilience Consortium. And we're about to enter into about a month-long process facilitated by Lulu Michelson to kind of do some goal setting with the group. Attending HWMA meetings where, of course, there's so much talk and concern around both CRV recycling and composting, and we're just still working on it, really. I am part of a subcommittee now that met earlier today to really converse more deeply about those things. And then I went to Alice Burney School for Read Across America Day, and I attended most of the Waterfront Specific Plan meeting after I got out of my HWMA meeting and went to the Chamber of Commerce dinner. And I will be traveling this weekend along with Mayor Seaman to go to the Local Government Commission meeting. Does it have a new name now?
Civic Well.
Civic Well, yeah, Civic Well meeting in Yosemite.
I know we're missing some pretty big things. I'm sad about that, but it's not the worst conference, I don't think. Councilmember Bauer.
No, thank you. Yeah, a lot of the normal business the meetings of council, JPA and whatnot. The chamber dinner was great. Getting to hang out with our business community and our friends at the table from Quality Body Works. The Creech family were awesome to talk with. I've actually been getting out and seeing the ward and talking to people just to see what's going on. People are getting more comfortable, and it's been really fun talking to the neighbors and just reaching out to people. I will say for people, I mentioned this to a lot of our neighbors. The Gulches and Greenways survey is out on the website. It's not too hard to find, and there'll be a public meeting via Zoom on March 29th. So please, for those of you still watching, get on the website and take that survey. It's really important to see what we're going to do with our greenways and gulches. Yeah, and that's it. Everything else is pretty good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Burgell.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to also do a shout out for the zoo. It's so exciting. We're starting the bear and coyote exhibit. And a big funding piece of that came from the Bear River Rancheria. It's going to be so cool, you guys, because you're going to be up on the skywalk looking down at the bear and the coyote. They won't be able to climb let's see, I went to and attended Bowl for Kids' Sake. I'm quite the excellent bowler. I scored 50 every time. Suck. I'm awful. But it's for the kids. It was fun, and that's always a great time. And then the Perilous Plunge is coming up, and I always do. This will be my 11th or 12th year. And that also supports our local youth. And so, that's a wonderful time jumping in the bay, which is always interesting. So you can support me on that if you go on the Discovery Museum and just look for my name, or you can find it on my Facebook page, and I'll put it on my council page just for fun. But any donations would be great. Support our local youth and programs for them, because they are our future, and it's very important, especially with kids. I work at the high school, and the pandemic really impacted kids in a really not so positive way, not being around each other and that type of thing, just being isolated. And so I think it's really important to have these programs and places for kids to go and things for kids to learn and participate in, and just really get back to regular normalcy. And then I just wanted to report that so excited about this. After 6 years, has it been 6 years? Probably 6 or 7, working in a property at Greenbelt over near Jitterbean at Renner. If you go by that property, it is finally, thank you to the property owner and John Shelter, it is finally almost all cleaned out of all the trash. And there were, I think, 2 40-yard dumpsters full of trash that came out of there, not to mention how many other truckloads. And that brings me to my next thing, which I won't lecture tonight, but please use your own trash service. Seriously, we don't need your household trash in our green belts. And with that, I'm so grateful we're back in person and we get to see each other. That's all.
Also, Councilmember Burgell, thank you so much for all you do when you step in for your Mayor Pro Tem roles. So you helped out a lot when I was gone a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to be gone this week. So thank you. Councilmember Moulton.
Hi there, thank you. Let's see, I also attended the waterfront specific plan meeting, which was really interesting, a series of questions and discussions about how we should develop Old Town. It was neat seeing what people think when it comes down to just anonymous survey questions. Should we do this here? Shouldn't we do this there? And how people really think about what we should do. It's actually all the meeting report I have for the moment, but I did want to encourage people as a nonprofit administrator and cheerleader, this is a really difficult time of year to raise funds and resources. So if you have a favorite nonprofit, maybe you have a tax return coming, donate to them, or, donate blood, donate time, donate stuff. But now is a really lull time for nonprofits, and I'm sure lots of folks in our community could use an extra hand.
Thank you. Councilmember Arroyo.
Thank you. I think I had a lot of the usual stuff. Humboldt Transit Authority met, and the city of Eureka is participating in a pilot project to really see how many of our employees would be interested in using a transit bus pass. And then, we're kind of tracking how many rides people take. And I'm hopeful that program can be, it's currently just the County of Humboldt and the City of Eureka participating, but I'm hopeful that other government agencies can participate in the future. Right now, it's just the HTA JPA members that are participating in just those 2 government agencies. But increasing transit is always something that use of transit is always something I want to continue to promote and talk about. And for those who are not employees of the City of Eureka or the County of Humboldt, there is still the $50 monthly bus pass program, which is a significant savings over some of the other pass options. So that's still going strong and still available. And the sanitizing of buses has increased substantially during the pandemic. There's new filtration and And masks are still required on the bus for the time being. And I'll provide an update when and if that changes. Let's see. I also really enjoyed the Eureka Chamber dinner and had a great time talking with the folks at our table. It was nice to be seated. Even though I was sad not to sit with a lot of other city employees, it was nice to be seated with a variety of community members too, who were from local businesses and nonprofits and organizations. So that was really cool. It was kind of weird to sit down for dinner with a group of people, but I quickly got over it, and it was really nice. So beyond that, just a lot of plugging away at the usual. So I'll go ahead and end my comments there. I'll probably have more to report next month.
Excellent. And with that, I believe this meeting is adjourned. We'll see y'all in April.